Evening. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Can we have a roll call, Mr. Calavita?
Dr. Genovese? Mr. Kapadia?
Here.
Dr. Lilliston?
Here.
Mr. Peters?
Here.
Dr. Resnick?
Here.
Mr. Slotman?
Here.
Dr. Stoliano?
Here.
Ms. Williams-Galliano?
Here.
Dr. Wilson? We have a quorum.
Wonderful. The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provision of the Act, the Hopewell Valley Regional Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof communicated to the Hopewell Valley News and the Times on January 4th, 2024. This meeting notice was also sent to Comcast Cable and Verizon Fios. The board does reserve the right to enter into executive session during all meetings of the Board of Education. The meeting is being recorded for the purposes of board review, future reference, preparation of the minutes, and viewing on YouTube Bulldog TV and the school district website, www.hvrsd.org. With that, please join me in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to move us on to approving the minutes from the September 15th regular meeting. Need a first and a second?
Motion.
All in favor? Any opposed or abstaining? Minutes are passed. With that, I'd like to introduce Miss Trish. There
Miss
she is.
Riley, Principal Riley.
I was like, there's so many people, I couldn't place you. Thank you, Miss Riley, for joining us and introducing our very important member.
Yes, thank you so much for having me back. I am extraordinarily excited to introduce Grace Corvaline to all of you. Grace is our one of our co-student representatives who will be joining you this year. Grace is an incredible member of not only the HVCHS community, but the entire Hopewell Valley community. She is talented and spectacular in so many ways. She is an athlete. She is talented musically. You should hear this girl sing. She is involved in so many different causes. You may have seen her present regarding many of the environmental causes that she's involved with. She is she is passionate and involved in so many different ways, and she has accomplished so much in her time that she has had here in the district. She's a published author. She has spoken at conferences, and she is here tonight and throughout the year to work with all of you. So I am so proud of her, and I'm really excited to have her share updates about the high school, representing our students for all of you this year. Welcome, Grace.
Thank you, Miss Riley, and welcome, Grace, to you. We're very much looking forward to having you with us, and I know you're going to be alternating with another colleague. I'd like to invite Mr. Turnbull up to the dais. Oh, she's going to do her report now.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. You can stand there looking awesome, and we're going to go to Grace.
There we go.
Hey, hi everyone. My name is Grace and I'm a senior at HBCHS. So as we move through October, our sports, arts, and other extracurriculars have been thriving at the high school. In our arts program, the theater department is currently rehearsing and preparing for our fall play, The Crucible, which will take place on November 14th and 15th in the Performing Arts Center. Additionally, the choir program is set to host its annual Haunted Hallways as a fundraiser for their upcoming trip to Italy this spring. That will be happening on October 25th. This week, the theater department will stop into New York City for a performance of Ragtime on Broadway, and the following Friday, the performing arts department will travel to the Met Opera to see a performance of Carmen. Our athletic teams are experiencing a successful season through numerous sports, including cross country, field hockey, girls volleyball, soccer, cheerleading, and football. Notably, the girls tennis team just celebrated an impressive 3-2 win over Haddonfield on Friday, and our football team, currently standing at 5-2, looks forward to their annual Pink Out game later this month. Additionally, clubs and activities are in full swing at HVCHS. Our recent Clubs and Activities Fair featured more than 50 student-led clubs and organizations dedicated to leadership and service. From clubs focusing on mental health awareness and cultural appreciation to STEM and the arts, we are looking forward to seeing the positive impact that they will have on our district and our community this year. This week, the PSAT will also be administered to all sophomores and juniors on Wednesday, October 9th. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? Wonderful. And as I told Grace in advance, we understand our amazing representatives are super busy with their schedule. We invite them always to stay with us. It's a learning experience for them, and it's a benefit to have them providing us feedback and input as we can go along the year. But we also offer that they can step away when they absolutely need to, because they are students first. So thank you, Grace. Okay, now the very awesome gentleman, Mr. Turnbull.
Thank you very much. Great job, Grace. Thank you for the opportunity to speak for just a few minutes and to introduce some really special people. We have some amazing people in our school and in our district and our community. And you get a rainy day like today, and then sometimes heavy work that we do, and it's tough. Whether you're a member of the Board of Education and you're making hard decisions every single day, whether you're in the central office making the schools work or being a parent or guardian, it can get hard sometimes. So when you have these moments of success in these bright spots, taking a moment to celebrate them and to think about how fortunate we are and how amazing the students around us are, it's great to be able to do that. And that's what I have the opportunity to do tonight. So I'm going to recognize two groups. And when you think about it, one is an individual student who's being recognized nationally for her writing and her poetry. The other group is part of a group that a program that was created by some teachers at Timberlane called STEMpathy, where they take STEM and give students the opportunity to help others, to understand other people, and to come together. And ironically, both are being recognized across the country. The young lady that you're going to hear from in a moment her work is on display in Chicago right now, as she was a winner of the American Writers Museum writing contest that took students from across the world, not just across the country, who submitted their poems, and she was one of 3 middle school winners in the nation and the world. Our other group is being recognized in Indianapolis next month for winning a major award with the AMLE, which is the Association of Middle Level Educators in Indianapolis. So it's great. We're having Timberlane and Hopewell Valley all across the country. But with that, I want to introduce Mr. Dave Sherwin to come on up with Arna Desai to talk about their writing and their process of winning a major award.
It's such a pleasure to be here with you this evening. Sometimes you put the invitation out there. And in this case, the prompt read, "It is good to have an end to journey toward, but it is the journey that matters in the end." This famous quote from Ursula Le Guin, the science fiction writer, was followed by some instructions that students could use that as a jumping off point. They could lead in, they could end with it, they could create poetry or something else that spoke to them. And what Arna produced, this multi-stanza poem, If I Had 9 Lives, combines imagery, figurative language, self-awareness, tremendous insight, and leaves you wanting more. So it is absolutely deserving of the recognition it received. And
you'd like to share.
So this is the very last stanza of the poem. My ninth life, I would move to the beach, back to the urethral ocean. I'd feel the serenity all over again. I'd be in the harmony with the sea once again. I'd go back to swimming in the vast ocean all by myself, and as the tide would pull me gently under, I would look back, each life, the thread in the fabric of who I've become. I'd come to understand finally that everything I'd learned through each of my 9 lives mattered. In my first life, I'd learned sometimes what I dread most is simply misunderstood. In my second and third life, I'd learned that the people who came before me shaped more of me than I realized. In my fourth life, I'd learned a picture-perfect life isn't always the best life. In my fifth life, I'd learned I must lose myself in order to truly find myself. In my sixth life, I'd learned happiness is always there if I just look for it. In my seventh life, I'd learned to cherish the small moments in any life I'd been dealt. And finally, in my eighth life, I'd learned happiness can come in many forms: books, coffee, solitude. I'd smile, not with regret, but with a knowing gratitude. After 9 long, hard lives, I would finally realize the true meaning of life. It is good to have an end to journey toward, but it is the journey that matters in the end.
Thank you very much, Arna. And again, that's on display in Chicago right now, which is amazing. And at this time, I'd like to call up Dr. Barbara McCarty and Miss Helen Corvaline. And this is a true story. I'm going to give you the behind the scenes because there's some. Miss Green, come on in. Yeah, get in here. Get in here. Over a slice of pizza not long ago. It's true. No, but Dr. McCarty, with some retired educators from this area and some current educators, just kicked around ideas of how they could make a difference and how they could have students help each other, and just asked for permission to run with something. And they ended up last year having a really, really successful first go at having our students from Timberlane support students from Mercer Elementary School who were in wheelchairs and who wanted to experience Halloween. So we used some of our STEM skills and resources to create opportunities and create costumes that were based on interviews with the students and connections and see that through. And the great news is we're doing it again later this week for our second go-around. But I'd like to have Dr. McCarty and Ms. Corvaline talk a little bit about it and maybe even introduce some of our students in the room.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to explain our STEMpathy project. You stole my beginning. It started over a pizza conversation in the summer with some retired teachers, and we began to wonder, what if we took we always give the kids real life scenarios to make it connect with their lives and their communities, but what if we took it out of those scenarios and we placed it into real life? And through a retired teacher from Mercer Elementary, she said, I have connections there. And the texting started, and we built an incredible bond with the students. Last year, through the medical detectives elective, we created 12 costumes, 10 of them for students at Mercer Elementary and 2 for students at Hopewell Valley. Our project was funded by the Hopewell Valley Education Association through a grant, and we were able to create the costumes, but more importantly, we were able to have our students have a connection with the students at Mercer County Elementary. We started off calling them our clients, and we ended up calling them our friends. We appreciate the opportunity to be able to take our students to deliver the costumes, and that was just an incredible moment for all of us. So when the next semester came and Halloween was over, we were like, what do we do now? So we created an inclusive carnival games that our friends could interact with in much the same way.
So I promise I'm the last Corvaline you're going to be introduced to today. I was driving over with Grace in the car tonight, and she said, Mom, it's really good that you have the kids there. You have the kids coming today. And she said, because you and Dr. McCarty and your friends can organize it, but the kids are the ones that really do it. And so we really wanted to make sure that you heard from them about some of their experiences. And we also want to make sure that you know how profoundly grateful we are for your approvals and your support and our ability to go and visit Mercer Elementary. And Karen has come today. She's our partner at Mercer. And Joan and Nancy are here, and we could not do it without a team. I would invite you to my classroom, but the chaos that ensues, you might just be like,
We'd rather show you the results.
the end result is truly what is amazing. So I'd like to invite the students up now, so come on up. We also have a special guest joining us as well. Lucia Snyder is here, and she is here because she's not only one of our new sixth graders, but she also participated last year as one of our Halloween recipients, and she's again joining us this year. So we invited her to come along to make sure that she could be part of our celebration. So why don't I invite my students come up? Come on up and share. Nilla, you're so brave. You're going first. Yeah, girl. Tell them what you think.
I was really excited to start Halloween Wheels when Miss Corvaline first introduced to us, but the best part of the project was seeing the kids and seeing their reactions to what we made. Okay, I'm Sonia, and when Miss Corvaline first told us about this project, I was also really excited. And although we hit many challenges along the way, meeting these kids and seeing their smiles made it all worth it.
My name's Tess, and one of my favorite parts of the Hollow Wheels project was getting to see all of the kids' faces when they saw their costumes. Even though most of the students were nonverbal, they were all so happy and excited, and it really made me feel like all the hard work we put into this project paid off.
My name's Xander, and this project was really memorable to me because from only like a few like cardboard, felt, and PVC pipes, we were able to make something that all of the kids at Mercer were able to enjoy. And we going to see there and being able to see how excited they were really made it all worth it and brought us all together.
I'm Connor, and I enjoyed this project a lot because I got to see the kids at Mercer Elementary so happy with their costumes. It was hard work, but it paid off in the end.
My name's Aziza. When you see people who are different from you, I think it's easy to make assumptions, but I believe this project revealed to me just how alike we all truly are. And giving this gift to Lucia and connecting with her showed me STEM isn't just boring equations and science. But it's much more than that. It's a way to connect with others and give them true joy.
My name. My name's Maggie, and this project was really able to show me that this is what I want to do with my life. Helping others and putting a smile on someone's face is amazing and inspirational.
So as you can imagine, when we delivered everything, there was not a dry eye in the house. And so we just really wanted to make sure that all of the students that we worked with, and we couldn't bring all 55 of them, so that they were recognized and they know that they are absolutely part of this celebration. So would you like to come up?
Hi everyone, my name is Evan Schneider. I'm Lucia's dad, and last year when we were entering into the holiday season for Halloween, her mom and I were having conversations like, what are we going to do for the costume and everything, and the invitation to participate in the program came just at the right time. And honestly, it was a huge gift because it's a lot of work to design and build a costume like this. And we were actually, I got an email after she went in the program, and they were wanting to know some dimensions of the wheelchair and stuff like that. And having built one of these costumes myself, I kind of knew there needed to be more information than what was being asked. And so I just suggested, could I bring Lucia in? And Helen said yes. And so we arranged one day, I went and picked her up from school and took her over to the middle school. And the kids were so excited to meet her and see her. And Lucia was thrilled to be over there. And we got to have a sneak peek of kind of what they were planning and everything. And it was just an amazing experience. later, when Lucia was in the hospital, I actually ran into Helen at PQM, and I must have not looked like I was doing very well, because she came up to me and she was like, "How are you? How are things?" And so I just shared a little bit about what was going on, and it was so fantastic to have a member of the community who I knew come up to me and care about what was going on in my life. So thank you, Helen, for that, and thank you for including us in the project.
So thanks for your time. I'm sure we went over, but we really appreciate it.
And again, thank you for affording us the opportunity to share some of this. But again, I speak for myself, and I think everyone that's walking through the halls at Timberland, we're so blessed and fortunate to be there with some amazing people. So thank you for helping us share.
Thank you all. Oh my gosh, my face hurts because I can't stop smiling. That is doing education right there. That is incredible. And thank you, thank you all for coming up with the ingenuity, or putting the ingenuity into action, and for the students being all in, and for the parents saying yes. Right? That's like a collision of all the things in one place. So thank you all for being a part of an amazing part of our education system, and I look forward to seeing what your project brings this season. Does anyone from the board have any comments or questions?
Actually, I have a question for you that's relevant to this.
Yeah.
I see you're next on the agenda. How are you going to top that?
Why, I'll pass, of course. Well, thanks.
I think that's mine. Any other comments from the board about?
Could I just on a personal level, my son was a medical detective last year and went through this process, and unfortunately I had another commitment tonight, so he couldn't be here. And I know I was just texting with him, and he definitely deeply regrets that he couldn't be here. But I just wanted to, on a personal level, I've known Helen and for many years now, and Miss Corvaline. Sorry, I should say Miss Corvaline. For many years, and just what a joy it is to have you as part of our education community, and just thank you for everything you do for our students.
Awesome. I'm gonna withhold grand comments until later in the program, but I do want to give Dr. Treese a moment to speak.
I am going to table my speech tonight, but I do want to just say before our guests leave that we are trying to make a point to invite some of the stellar things that are going on in our community, in our school community, so that the whole community can see what my teachers are doing, what our students are doing, the collaboration between the community and our students. This is learning that it didn't take place when I was a student, when my son was a student, when some of the young folks that are even in this space, how we've evolved to really prepare our students for the world that they're entering into. To solve the problems that we face in this country, in this world, is going to take collaboration at this level. It's going to take innovation and creative thinking that goes beyond the textbook. All right. And so you just are a stellar example. I am not surprised that you are receiving accolades outside of this state, across the country. I'm just so proud of all of you. And I want to thank you for coming tonight. So just one more round of applause. And then we'll let these folks get to bed, get to their homework, get to all the things. Thank you. So as they're transitioning, we're going to get ready for, we have a lot on the agenda tonight. We're talking about CUSAC, we're doing performance reports. I know, don't rush out. All kinds of exciting things. We're talking about the budget. Yes, but now you know where our money's being spent. You know what happens here. So that was a great example. So folks clearly didn't come to see us, board president, so that's okay. I don't feel bad. Okay, I'm gonna pass it back to you.
I am going to pass it to Mr. Calavita for our public hearing and adoption segment.
Okay, so this is a official public hearing and adoption of a refunding bond ordinance for the 2005 school bonds, which requires a 2/3 roll call of the full members of the board. So what we're basically doing is we're refinancing bonds that were issued for the previous referendum we did in 2016. I think that date is wrong on there. It should say 2015, not 2005. We are going to be refunding these bonds at a lower interest rate, which we are required to do by law. The bonds will run the same term as the existing bonds, so it won't be extending the debt out any further. Again, so if there are any questions on as to why we were able to open that up to the public, or any comment on that, as well as the board, so you can.
Do you want to anything from the board first?
Any member of the public who wants to come from the refund, we can do that now.
So as Mr. Helvita mentioned, we do want to hold a public comment specifically on the refinancing mentioned, and as such, the members of the public are invited to address the board on this specific matter for a maximum of 3 minutes during this portion of the meeting. You're asked to state your name, address, and municipality. In response to your comments, the Board of Ed may respond or direct the superintendent to do so. The board may also opt to take up the matter at a future meeting so that the matter is researched by the district administration. Refer to our timekeeper for direction.
So I'm the timekeeper for today for this public comment and all public comment today. If you see a yellow, that's a 30-second warning, and if you see a red, that means your 3 minutes are up.
Thank you. With that, public comments are now open. Okay, seeing none, public comment on this particular issue is now closed. We'll move on to CUSAC.
Now we're gonna vote.
So excited. I need a first and a second.
Motion.
Second. And roll call.
Mr. Kapadia.
Yes.
Dr. Lilliston.
Yes.
Mr. Peters. Dr. Resnick.
Yes.
Mr. Slotman.
Aye.
Dr. Stiliano.
Yes.
Dr. Wilson. Dr. Genovese.
Yes.
Ms. Williams-Galliano.
Yes.
Motion carries. Yes. Dr. Treese, you want me to start, or do you want to start? Okay. All right, so we are, the board is right now going, at the beginning stages of going through New Jersey CUSAC, which is essentially a monitoring program where all areas of district operation are reviewed internally and then will be submitted to the county office for an external review. The areas that will be reviewed are fiscal, curriculum, and it's the INP with instruction and basically it's a curriculum instruction program. Operations is another area, personnel and governance. So fiscal essentially involves the operation of my office, but also in coordination with Dr. Blitz's, the operation of our grants, our federal and local state grants are also involved deeply in that. The governance portion involves you guys and how you complete the evaluations that you're supposed to complete of the superintendent, of yourselves, your completing of the ethics forms that you need to fill out, but also how you handle policy matters. Believe it or not, a lot of districts do not review policy as you guys do on a monthly basis. So all of those things will involve the governance. There's a personnel piece that not only talks about how we evaluate teachers, how we onboard them, mentoring, all those
Their
kinds of things
licensure, all of
involved
those
there.
things. Mm-hmm.
Obviously, curriculum is how we review it, how we implement it, how we approve it, but also in large part, and if you look at the document in itself, it's the only area where we didn't self-score ourselves 100, because 60% of the IMP metric is test scores, and they're input directly by the state. The areas that we feel that we've self-assessed, we feel that we meet all the criteria that's required. We won't find out the test scores until much later in the process, probably sometime after the holiday break. The last portion of it, and what am I forgetting? Which piece? Operations. Operations involves many different areas, but operations is kind of a misnomer. It involves the health and safety checklist that we must do. We must tour every building, and there's a 89 to a 90 questionnaire that you must go through. All the ceiling tiles in place, the electrical boxes in place. Do you have extension cords where they don't belong? How are your boilers running? There's logs for all of these things that must be maintained. But it also involves safety and security questions. What am I forgetting? Who's looking it up?
Yes. Yes.
Oh yeah, building-based committees, and that when you hold a budget meeting, that there are people that they sign in. The curricular meetings, the faculty meetings, all of those things are involved, and they need proof that you actually held them. So we've gone through each of these 5 areas. Dr. Treese and her cabinet have gone through them, and we've self-scored ourselves that we feel we meet each criteria. What will happen in February, sometime middle of February, I think it's the 13th, they will come here and review all the documentation that we've submitted. A lot of it is going to be reviewed offline, meaning we have a folder set up and we'll upload artifacts that go in there and they'll review them. Other things, they may come into my office and ask, they'll pull purchase orders and say, talk to me about this, that, or the other. Where's the backup for this purchase? Show me your bid file. Show me your quote file. They'll go to TANA and they'll ask for a teacher's file and they'll say, show me the evaluations. Show me discipline files, things like that. They'll go to Dr. Politzis and they'll ask for curricular documents and other things that are in her office. They may talk to us about policies and ask us to pull policies, show us how your policy committee works, things like that. So again, we feel that we are in great shape. We've never not passed QSAC. We've always passed with well numbers into the 90s and 80s to go there. So, what's that? No.
She's saying don't jinx us.
Not jinxing us.
But in short, it's a very thorough, comprehensive audit of everything that we do. They do come in and spot check. They ask for logins and they go in and spot check that observations were done on time, that pulls files and make sure that folks that are in positions have the proper certification. We do very well, and I'm knocking on wood that we will do well this time in addition. But it's a lot. It's a heavy lift. We have to do the self-assessment by a certain deadline. That's why you see it on the agenda tonight. The numbers that are on here, I know that they may seem odd, and folks are saying, well, why aren't you getting a larger number? This is a number that the state has identified as the max for each category, and we have we have given our a self-assessment based on that. So we look forward to their visit in February. We have a great working relationship with the executive office, and if they find something that we need to do better, they will let us know, and it's an opportunity for us to do corrections. If a district fails a QSAC exam, which some districts do, because again, a big portion of it is your test score. So some people unfortunately start out kind of behind, the passing. So their struggle, that could lead to the state coming in and monitoring a school district in addition to giving you corrective plans. So I don't anticipate anything like that for Hopewell, but we just wanted to share with you what this process is.
Okay.
Just real quick before we move on and accept the report. I know that as we talk about finance and things around the district, sometimes it's hard to understand what oversight looks like from the board's perspective or for those outside of the district who make sure we're managing our oversight is on task, and ultimately the administration's oversight of the district is as it should be. And so I Bob kind of skated past it, but mentioned that the financial aspect of this has a lot of scrutiny. So there are, and I just searched randomly, there are, 4 or 5 different places where financials comes up in the CUSAC report. So this is a full-on audit. If anybody's been through an audit, they're not fun. They can pick anything that they want to pull out of your records and your policies and things. So I just want you to be assured this is an example where we have outside parts of the state coming in and looking at the work that Hopewell Valley does. And so the conversations about, have you moved money from here to there, that's a hard no way, because we would fail any CUSAC audit. So just wanted to point that out, that that comes up, but this is the oversight that probably isn't present to the community as likely as they're knowing that the board is also overseeing. This is much outside of our realm, and it is rigorous, and there's no kind of, skating by or getting over. So I'll leave that there. With that,
any other questions from the board on this?
I think just a clarification, because Bob, you, Vicki, and I talked really briefly before the meeting. So I just want to make sure that folks are clear on the board what this 40% means for instruction and program, right? So that doesn't mean we got a 40% in instruction and program, right? Because when I first saw that, I said, what's going on here? Can you just share sort of why the score looks that way and what the other inputs are to get us to the final score?
So the 60% is really based on our NJSLA scores. So the state has some formula that they figure out what our percentage would be, or what our points out of the 60 points would be. And then the 40% or the 40 points that Dr. Lillison is mentioning is just our curriculum review. So we really only have control over the curriculum review portion, because the other test scores have already occurred.
And to your point, Pam, I have a problem with making us submit at this time without them giving us the scores, because we can't pull them out of anywhere. They've got to tell us. And for us to have to submit by, it's a very early submission date. For us to have to submit before they've given us the scores is really misleading to the public.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none. First and second to accept the
motion
report. Roll call?
No, all those in favor.
Oh, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any opposed or abstaining? Seeing none, the report is accepted.
All right.
To student achievement.
I heard Pam.
Oh, okay. I had Mr. Slotman on my side, though. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight as we review the 2025 Achievement Report. This presentation will give us a clear picture of where our students are excelling and where we can continue to grow. We'll look at advanced placement trends, SAT performance, state assessments, and talk about continuous improvement goals. Here's a quick overview of our agenda. Now, just note, I know I'm going through this quickly, but this will be posted on the website for people to check out at their leisure. The AP Overviews is situated around how Hopewell Valley students are performing on AP exams as compared to other students in New Jersey. I chose to organize the presentation around that comparison, as those are the students that our students will be competing with in terms of college acceptance. This slide shows the breadth of AP courses that we offer. The courses highlighted in yellow are courses that we don't offer, but that students can sit for exams without taking the course. So just note that students can sit for any AP exam that they like, even though they haven't taken the course. Overall, colleges tend to only accept AP credit if students earn a 4 or 5. However, in a study published by College Board, it was found that students who earned a 1 or 2 on an AP test are more likely to enroll in a 4-year school, are more prepared in an intro college level course, and are more likely to take future AP tests and score higher. The objective for our students is to prepare them to be at the 4 and 5 score level, but students who don't earn those scores are still being exposed to preparation and experience. I'd briefly like to talk about AP enrollment. The bar graph highlights this year's test takers by demographic. Overall, the distribution is very close to last year's distribution, with 60% of the test takers being white. There was a slight increase in regard to Hispanic students and 2+ race students, but limited changes in the other races. This is the AP test takers by gender. This is very consistent to last year's breakdown. Okay, now I would like to talk about the trends. So this slide highlights the number of students who earned a 3 or higher on the exam over the last 5 years. As you can see, this year we had 97% of our students earn a 3 or higher, which is the highest we have seen. The data for New Jersey was not available at the time of presentation for 2025. This table breaks down the number of students tested as well as number of exams. Overall, there was a slight decrease in the number of students or exams administered this year. However, again, as noted in the last slide, we have the highest percentage of students who earned a 3 or higher and the highest percentage of students who earned a 5 as compared to the last 5 years. The scores highlighted in the next few slides review the scores of the 5 most subscribed to AP exams, which account for roughly 50% of the test takers. Our most prescribed AP exam was U.S. History. 98% of our students scored a 3 or higher as compared to New Jersey, which is 82%. It is important to note that I did not indicate what the state had in regard to scores 1 or 2. That's why for those scores you don't see the red comparison. In AP statistics, 83% of our students earned a 3 or higher as compared to 67% in New Jersey. In AP Seminar, 100% of our students earned a 3 or higher on the exam as compared to 85% of the students in New Jersey. In AP Language and Composition, 100% of our students earned a 3 or higher as compared to 72% of New Jersey. Finally, in Chemistry, 98% of Hopewell Valley students earned a 3 or higher as compared to 81% in the state. So the additional slides review the other 50% of the exams. The black percentages are Hopewell Valley students, while the blue numbers are the state percentages. The same trends are noted as above throughout the next few slides. And again, as I said, this will be online, so you can look at this at your leisure. You can just keep moving. And can you just go back to the other? The courses that are highlighted in yellow, those were courses that students took the exam, but we don't offer the AP course here. Okay, thanks. So looking ahead, our improvement goals are clear. We want to increase accessibility to AP classes. We want to provide targeted practice on question types that challenge students. And we want to create more vertical alignment opportunities for teachers. These steps will strengthen both teaching and learning across grade levels. I'd like to quickly review the SAT means for our students along with the means for New Jersey and the nation. Overall, we have been staying pretty consistent for the last few years in terms of our overall means in both ELA and mathematics. In comparison, Hopewell Valley with New Jersey, our students tend to score higher than other students in New Jersey. Specifically, they score 81 points higher in ELA and 78 points in math. And we are thrilled that many of our students were recognized by College Board, including we had 3 National Merit semifinalists this year. Okay, so these are the spring results for the New Jersey Student Learning Assessment scores for math, science, and English. These assessments are taken by students in grades 3 through 11, and a passing score in this exam is meeting or exceeding, which equates to a level 4 or 5. So I'm going to begin with talking about math, and the Math NJSLA is administered to grades 3 and 8, plus Algebra 1, Algebra 2, and Geometry. So I know that this is very small for people sitting in the back, but a couple of things I want to point out. This slide reviews where the Math NJSLA percentages by scores over a 3-year time frame. It's important to note that overall our scores have increased by almost 3%, but there are certain grades or content areas that have dropped slightly. Those I've indicated with the arrows. It recently came up at one of our Ed Program Committee meetings about how our students are performing in regard to comparable districts in the state. This is what happens every achievement report. They ask, well, how are we doing to other districts that are comparable to us? And so while the data can be tricky to locate, I was able to locate the NJSLA scores from one comparable district in the area from last year's scores. So overall, we had 61% of our students pass the NJSLA in math district-wide last year, while the comparable district had 70% meet or exceed. So we were a little bit below. This chart shows a 3-year comparison of students approaching or meeting expectations in math as compared to the state. Hopewell Valley consistently performs above the state average, demonstrating strong math instruction and consistent growth over time. And this shows the comparisons for levels 1 through 4. Here we see percentages of students exceeding expectations or level 5 in math. And again, we are outpacing the state averages. And this tells us that not only are our students meeting expectations, but a significant portion are going beyond, which speaks to the rigor of our curriculum. Shifting to English language arts, this portion provides an overview of overall performance. It mirrors the strength we saw in math with high levels of proficiency and consistency across multiple years. This slide highlights a 3-year ELA trend. Our district continues to perform above the state average in both approaching and meeting expectations. The data shows steady achievement across cohorts. As I mentioned, when I was looking at data for a comparable district in our county, we had a 72% overall passing rate, where that one district had a 76% passing rate. Our students are meeting expectations in all grades, and the percentages are higher than the state. It's also important to note that there was an increase in the overall percentage of students meeting expectation as compared to 2023 and 2024. Okay. Looking at students exceeding expectations in ELA, we see that our students again remain ahead of the state, and this indicates our strongest readers and writers are being challenged appropriately and achieving at high levels. Okay, and then the Science NJSLA is taken in grades 5, 8, and 11. Please note that the scoring is a bit different for this assessment, and it is evaluated on a 1 through 4 scale, with 3 and 4 considered passing. So this is a 3-year review of the different score levels for grades 5, 8, and 11. Overall, there has been an increase in the passing rate, roughly about 3%. Alternatively, overall, our numbers are below the state in terms of level 1 and 2 for those that are not passing. As compared to the last 2 years, we have a higher passing rate as comparison to 2023 and 2024. Right, so I'm now going to review the demographic data for each of the NJSLA content areas. All right, so in terms of this, I'm going to begin with math. And so this chart shows math performance by race across all grade levels. While many subgroups perform strongly, certain groups consistently achieve higher scores. This reinforces the importance of targeted strategies to close the achievement gap. Looking over 3 years, this trend is consistent. Some racial subgroups outperform others. This stability suggests that while our overall scores are strong, equity remains an area for continued focus. Breaking down by gender, we see relatively balanced performance with slight differences depending on the subject area. This indicates that both male and female students are assessing learning at high levels. This slide shows math performance by programs such as general education, free and reduced lunch, and students with 504s. The data highlights that program placement continues to be a strong predictor of achievement, pointing us toward areas where supports must remain robust. And over 3 years, our program-based performance has remained relatively stable. Students in general education consistently outperform subgroups, reminding us of the need for differentiated support for students in specialized program. Now we shift to ELA demographics. The patterns here are similar to what we saw in math, with overall strong performances, but persistent differences between certain subgroups. Please note ELA data is for grades 3 through 9. This chart shows the performance by race. While many students are excelling, the data again shows gaps between racial subgroups that we must continue to address through curriculum and targeted interventions. Over 3 years, the ELA results remain consistent. The persistence of gaps indicates that we need to keep equity as a focus in literacy instruction and supports. Here, gender-based performance is relatively steady. Both male and female students demonstrate strong ELA achievement, though there may be a slight variations worth monitoring by grade levels. And the chart displays program level ELA achievement. As with math, general education students outperform other subgroups. This highlights where targeted interventions are most critical. The 3-year comparison shows these trends are stable over time, while general education students sustain strong outcomes. Continued work is needed to close gap for students in specialized programs. Okay, and then lastly, we now shift to the science demographics. Again, science NJSLA is administered to grades 5, 8, and 11. This section focuses on science achievement across all grade levels and demographic groups. Science performance remains a point of pride for our district, with students continuing to outperform the state averages across nearly every subgroup. The assessment reflects our students' ability to apply scientific reasoning and inquiry skills, which are reinforced through our hands-on lab experiences. This slide provides a longitudinal view of science performance disaggregated by race over the past 3 years. Trends have been relatively stable, with most racial subgroups maintaining or improving their levels of proficiency. District-wide, a high percentage of students continue to score at or above the proficient range, outpacing the state's performance each year. Here we see the 3-year trend in science proficiency by gender. Overall, male and female students have performed consistently well with minimal variance between groups. And this slide breaks down science achievement by program type. And similar to other content areas, general education students show proficiency while gaps remain among special populations. And finally, the 3-year comparison by program shows gradual improvement among several student groups. These gains suggest that the district's systematic approach is having an impact. Okay, and in summary, overall performance is consistent year to year. However, the data confirms that certain demographics consistently achieve higher scores. This makes it even more important for us to focus on closing gaps while maintaining excellence across the board. And to address some of these learning needs, we're investing in multiple supports, including after-school programs, data-driven benchmarking, online platforms such as IXL, adopting a writing tool at the elementary level known as HVRSD, and also engaging in collaborative data conversations. And these tools allow us to personalize instruction and close gaps while maintaining high expectations for all students. And so again, I know that was rather quickly, so if this is your first time seeing it, it's a lot to digest, but it will be posted on the website tomorrow morning.
Any questions from the board?
I have a couple of questions, I guess, since unfortunately I couldn't be at the committee meeting. I'm just wondering, it occurred to me, we always report SAT scores as part of the achievement report. I believe we have quite a number of kids who choose to take the ACT instead.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't we also report the ACT scores?
We can do that moving forward. Right now, the only thing we're really required to report by the state is the NJSLA. So we don't even need to report the AP or the SATs, but I can add the ACTs.
Yeah, I think it's good.
Yeah, sure.
to see
Mhm.
it. I'm just thinking that, we're going to talk about the SAT.
Mhm.
Talk about these. And I forget what the other question was, so it wasn't that important.
Okay. Thank-
Oh, I know what the other question was. That's really a question for Dr. Reed. So we had previously discussed what we were going to do, um, actions that we were thinking of taking with kids who did not score a satisfactory score on the NJSLA in terms of remedial actions. Did we ever put that in place?
Yes.
And were they in place before this latest round or only after this round?
It would be after this round because we put that in place in the spring. It would have been in the program of study for this year.
Okay, so next time we look at this, we would be able to see if that made any difference.
So, and we put the remedial measures in place for the NJGPA. So those are for our current 11th graders or 12th graders. But one thing that I've been marinating on is perhaps looking at the NJSLA scores and identifying, to get the students before they take the NJGPA, since that's the required graduation course. But I think we can talk more about that at EdCom.
So I have a quick question. The comparable district that you referenced, can you just kind of speak to, you don't have to say who it is, but can you just speak to like what the metrics are we use for what comparable would be?
I was just trying to look for a district within our county that had, you know how they have those ratings, the A through J. I can't remember what they're called, what the actual name, but they were in the same rating group as
District
us.
factor
District
groups.
factor groups.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I'm coming on the end of my first term being on the board, and I think, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I'm just thinking about math continues to be this metric that I think we're all seeing as, while we're above the state standard, we are not at a comparable district standard. So I'm trying to just maybe start this conversation now as to the why here. I'm sure you guys have a lot of thoughts around it, and I think the remedial is good, but I do think that I don't know what the answer is because this is not my expertise, but I am hoping that we can have some follow-up dialogue about this and find a way to think about that math number compared to the districts that we want to be compared to.
Well, and just for your own information, we are taking a closer look at looking at the standards by course to make sure that all of the state standards are being addressed thoroughly as one. And then from there, we're looking at how to differentiate based on what trends we're noticing by standard.
Yeah. And I know anecdotally and hearing from parents in the district and others, and even my own instances with my children, it doesn't help that we've changed in certain grades the way we're doing math.
Yep.
And frankly, there's times where I look at the math homework and my kid's telling me to do it away, and I say, what? Because I have no idea what it is. And I'm sure that is contributing to this in some way, but I just hope that we can figure it out. And it's more of just like a proclamation. I know we're all working hard to do it, but the math one is concerning, and I know it's concerning for others. So looking forward to continuing the dialogue.
Of course. Thank you.
Yep.
And I do know we talked a couple of times about the way we might approach math, and that has changed, but also new students to us are also adjusting to a new way likely for them. So we do have some indication that some of the kids maybe not meeting are coming to us, to our district late in their education.
Sorry, meaning like below a standard? Is that what you're getting at, or what am I missing here?
No, they've learned a different method.
They have a different methodology.
And then they're coming to us and learning a new method. So there's that, or it could be we don't know where they're coming from. We don't know the rigor of their education, and they're coming to some rigor that we need to catch them up.
Got it.
So it's not, there is some not necessarily about capability or ability. It is the catch up.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
And I just want to alert you all that our students do very well. Yes, we can always strive to do better. And a like district by just the district factor group is not enough. You really need to disaggregate the data and look at what students make up that group, right? And so that all of those things are things that we're digging into. Now that we have a new STEM facilitator whose background is math, we're asking him to look at all those things, and the Education Programs Committee is challenging us to really dig deep into those things. What are we missing in what we're doing that we're not, elevating our scores in that area?
I had just 2 questions. So the first one is about the AP classes. So one of your recommendations, Dr. Plitzis, was to increase the accessibility of the AP, I think it was the AP courses you said. And I'm curious as to why, because the fact that we're doing better in those areas makes me wonder if we're actually doing a better job in terms of matching the students who should be taking those courses to the courses. So just curious to hear more about that. And then the second thing I just wanted to lift up is, I think, as I've been reviewing these scores, we do see sort of persistent disparities. That's not a secret to anybody, by race, ethnicity, by sociodemographic characteristics. But I think in general, we've been seeing scores go up for everybody sort of over the past couple of years, which is a really good news story. Looking at these, the one thing that concerned me is that it looked like our Hispanic students have dropped, by 7 percentage points or so in terms of their math scores and ELA. So I was just wondering if you could share a little bit about, what your thoughts are about what might be happening there and what interventions we might be applying to help those students really succeed in these areas.
Well, in terms of the AP question and increased accessibility, I know that it has been really one of the board's mission to allow, if you want to take an AP test, to do that. And that was what I meant by just like continuing that accessibility for students, so it doesn't seem like it's something unreachable for students to enroll in. In terms of specifically for the Hispanic population, we have like Ms. Galliano was saying before, we have been looking at when students are enrolling in the district, and so some of the students may be enrolling later on in the district, so that when they take the exam, they may have only been with us for a year. So we're trying to put in place more nets to help identify where those gaps are and to address those gaps for new students. And that's not just for one race, it's for all students. Yeah.
I had a couple quick questions. Firstly, thank you for all of the data. And just echoing what Dr. Lillison said, it is great to see year over year the increases in our test scores. This is my second year on the board, and I feel like whether it's NJ GPA testing results or the results we've just seen now, there does seem to be a persistent gap between the achievement of our Black and Latino students and our white and Asian students. So we've talked a lot about this, and I don't want to look and read too deep into the year over year fluctuations, because I know we've also talked about this where, because how small of the populations of these specific ethnic groups in our district are, 1 or 2 students changing their scores oftentimes can lead to some of these fluctuations. But I'm curious, the gaps overall are still there. And what are we doing as the targeted interventions and curriculum changes that we've talked about? I think, like, just having served on the board now, we've heard a lot about it, but I don't know what the actual interventions have been.
So we are providing, like I just said to Dr. Lillison, we are looking at kind of getting a profile of students. So I know when I presented the NJGPA results, like I did a deep dive into who wasn't passing in terms of racial ethnicities, and the majority of the students who didn't pass were the students who had only enrolled like from 8th grade onwards, which is, we should be celebrating that the students who are coming through our system are passing. But so to your question, Drew, is that we are looking to put in place more supports, whether that is after school interventions, whether that are in the classroom more culturally relevant pedagogy, whether that is just differentiating the instruction overall. We are also looking at, and this is more for ELA, looking at doing better screeners for the students so that we can identify where there might be some foundational gaps that we can work on addressing.
And then a separate question about the AP scores.
Yeah.
all of the data that we saw were results from AP test takers. Have we found any gaps between students that are enrolled in AP classes but then don't end up actually taking the exams?
No, we really not really, and I don't, in terms of like their grades, you're saying per marking period, or
No, just if there are any particular demographic differences, if there are specific communities that are enrolled in AP classes but then don't actually end up taking the exam, if there's just anything that we're
no, we haven't noticed any trends in that. I mean, one thing I have noticed though is that now that there's more dual enrollment opportunities, that I think that's one of the reasons why our number of test takers or exams administered last year went down, because I think students are going with like the dual enrollment. So it's kind of we've been offering more dual enrollment, so it's kind of like then with the APs we might not have as many test takers. I know that doesn't really answer your question, but I thought it was important to know. Yeah.
Thank you.
I just have one quick request. When we're some of your slides had this and some of them didn't. So the ones where, gender of students taking AP tests, if we have a way either of showing that like as a rate or having both data sets there, it's just hard when I look at it to know like, oh, is it because we have more, let's say male students, or so if we could have some data also that shows in comparison to the population, that would be really helpful.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else? Very, very good. Thank you, Dr. Plitzis, a lot. All right, I totally am out of order in terms of the agenda, but I'd like to bring up our what's your official?
Supervisor of Counseling.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And we're going to get an overview on our anti-bullying policy.
Good evening. My name is Corrine Rutt. Thank you so much for having me this evening. It's my pleasure to share with you the results of our 24-25 anti-bullying Bill of Rights grades. Next slide. As you all are likely aware, New Jersey has been a leader in the establishment of a strong statutory regulatory policy and framework to support the prevention, remediation, and reporting of HIV in schools. One of the requirements of the state's Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights Act is an annual reflection on our proactive anti-bullying efforts using the state's self-assessment tool. Next slide, please. This tool includes 8 core elements that address the ABR requirements for schools, and each of the elements is listed on the screen. School safety teams meet and are tasked with assigning a grade or a rating to their efforts according to the rubric. The core elements are listed here, and as you'll see, some include HIV programs, HIV personnel, curriculum instruction, and more. All right, the grading scale the state gives us is on a rubric of 0 through 3. 0 meaning does not meet the requirements, 3 meaning exceeds the requirements. This grading scale is specific and limited. So I want to take a moment to point out the example that I've provided on the slide here. If you look at the difference between meeting requirements and exceeding requirements in this one case, and this is pulled right from the state's rubric, the difference, so in order to meet the requirement, we have to celebrate the Week of Respect during the week, the first week in October, and hold activities related to character education and HIV prevention. In order to exceed requirements in that area, we have to do that, plus plan activities in collaboration with school staff, students, and community members, as an example. So I'm really pleased to say that, and you can go ahead and go to the next slide. I'm jumping ahead of myself a little bit, but the fluctuation in our grading has been oftentimes just the difference between meeting or exceeding requirements. I'll get back to that in just a moment. So the school safety team is responsible, as I mentioned, for completing the self-assessment. They meet several times a year in addition to doing this self-assessment with the goal of strengthening school climate and thinking critically about preventing and addressing HIV. Okay, next slide. All right, so what you see here are the 24-25 ABR self-assessment results from each building. And you'll see results from each of the 8 elements. As an example, if you look at element 1, the maximum amount that any school could have scored in that element is a 15. That means that they exceeded requirements in each of those components of that element. Looking at element 7, you'll see that each of our buildings did exceed requirements in that core element. You can go to the next slide. So what I have here now are our total scores by school. A score of 50 on this rubric from the state means that all expectations have been met. You'll see that in each building we are well above that and are erring on the side of exceeding expectations. Next slide. And this is an average of our district as a whole over the past 4 years. You can see that we are regularly, exceeding requirements by a long shot. So what do we do in order to prevent and address HIB? Well, one of the most important things we do doesn't happen necessarily directly as a result of the anti-bullying specialist or myself as the anti-bullying coordinator. It happens in the classroom, and it happens just inherently. We're building relationships with students and encouraging students to have strong, healthy relationships with one another. There are lots of ways that we do that. Character education is certainly one of them. This year, we are pleased to be running a trial of evidence-based Tier 2 social emotional learning program at each elementary school. We have, again, one of those components that we need to assess ourselves are on our staff, specifically engaged in anti-bullying work. So we have myself as the coordinator. Each building has an anti-bullying specialist. You can go on to the next. And there are just many more things that we do. School assemblies throughout the year, counselors supporting students, peer leadership programs, et cetera, et cetera. With that, I say thank you for your time, and I think I have to ask if there are any questions.
I was just going to say, can you go back to the slide by school? And
Sure.
I just want to highlight, this is not out of a percentage of 100. So can you explain kind of what we're looking at there?
Is this the correct slide?
No, I think one more forward. Yes.
There we are. Yeah, so in each category, there is a maximum score of 3 for each component of every core element. So some core elements have 2 components. Some core elements have 5 components. If you put all of those together as a whole, a score of 50 means that you have met each requirement. So you've gotten a score of 2 on each requirement. What you see here is that we are far more frequently exceeding the requirements and earning a score of 3 versus earning a score of 2.
And what's the highest score possible?
Wow. I haven't thought about that one.
I think it's 78.
Okay, thank you. How do you know this? You're so smart. I will.
And I'm teasing you, but I wanted to highlight that because when I looked at this at first, I was like, we're only getting C's, right? In like my academic head. And I was like, wait a minute, it's out of 78. This is incredible. So I wanted to highlight that for you. It's
you.
amazing.
You want to come up here and do this presentation next year? Thank you. 78. Yes, I appreciate that.
I have a quick question. Thank you for this great presentation. I really
you're welcome.
appreciate it. And we're obviously doing really well. These scores are on this assessment here. And we still get HIB reports every month, and we see them, right? Every year we look at those numbers. So you're newer to this district, so I'm just curious if you could share with us, where do you see the areas for growth in terms of us really being able to build up our anti-bullying work and our bullying prevention work?
Are you asking me how we decrease the number of bullying reports, or is the question different?
No, I think that's it, right?
Yeah.
I think my question is, we're knocking it out of the park here.
Right.
We're still seeing reports come in each month.
Yeah.
I don't know that we're doing much worse than any other school district.
Right.
But where do you see the gaps? Where do we need to be putting more energy, if anywhere?
I think the good news, bad news of this is that, from my perspective, this district has a culture of reporting. We err on the side of reporting it as an HIB, and we are also very conservative in our policy related to HIB. We don't use the option to deny an HIB report and say, no, we're not going to, we've looked at that and that's not HIB, we're not going to report it. And there are lots of reasons that the board, that you all opted to take that conservative approach. So I would have to say, I think where we may be able to grow is in educating people on the nuances of what specifically is considered bullying according to the law and what is conflict. And Dr. Treese and I do a presentation almost every year together talking in part about that. But that is something that the anti-bullying specialists and I have talked about already this year, is trying to get the word out a little bit more about that. Some of it is generational. I'm a parent of children in school, right? Or, well, mine are in college now, but I used to use the word bullying to mean a lot of things that don't meet that definition according to the law. And so I think that's an area of growth that if we're able to do that, we may see the number of reports come down. I'm speculating. I don't know, but that's my hunch. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes. Yes.
Is there any amount of he's having me. Do you get involved in calibration and making sure that there's some consistency across all schools?
We do try to do that because the anti-bullying specialists and I meet at least 3 times a year, and we talk about what in our last meeting we talk about what the rubric looks like and what that means in certain places. That said, and I think this is a good thing. It's not just the anti-bullying specialist who is involved in doing that rating. It's the school safety team. So, and that typically is comprised of a community member, a staff member, the anti-bullying specialist, the principal. So it's that committee's decision. And some of the committees are a little bit harder on themselves than others, I think, but I think overall we have a lot to be proud of in this area. Did that answer your question? I'm sorry. You want me to try again? Okay. Okay. Thanks. Yes.
To go back to your previous answer, if you're going to educate the community about what constitutes bullying according to New Jersey statute,
yes,
I think it's just as important, if not more important, to educate folks in our community that when there's an incident, the actions that the district takes are based on the facts and circumstances of the incident, not whether it is determined to be bullying or not, right? In fact,
absolutely.
that, right? Because there's a perception in the community
Yes.
that if the district determines that something is not bullying, then the consequences kind of go away, and
No.
that's patently not true.
That's absolutely not true. Yeah. And
right, but I know it 'cause I'm on
right.
the board.
But we need to
know
say that
it,
more.
But I think a lot of people in the community are confused about, understandably so, right, between what we do because of statutory requirements around HIBs and the reporting, and what we do as part of routine normal disciplinary proceeding.
Yes, thank you for that. And those conversations are had when the principal and vice principal, having been in both those roles, we make those calls home and say there's an investigation. The consequence has already been issued well before sometimes we get the findings for the HIB. findings. The HIB findings, whether it's found as bullying or not, do not give you an extra scoop of consequence, right? The consequence has already happened. We've already addressed those issues with the students, because most times it's whether it checks the box or not. If it's a violation of our code of conduct, which it often is, a consequence needs to come immediately. It can't come sort of 3-4 weeks after, or 2 weeks after everybody's been interviewed to check the box. The HIB report is not for us to decide if we're going to give a consequence or not. It is for us to report to the state, for them to determine if we have a problem in our school district. And that's what we use it for. And then the question is, what are we doing, just like you're asking us now, to make those numbers come down? It's not for us to decide whether or not something was done wrong. You can do something very wrong and not check that box. And so that would be dealt with immediately.
And the only point I was making is if you are going to do community education, right, that point has to be a big part of it, right?
Thank you.
Any other?
I was just going to add to that, Dr. Treese, because I think it's a really good point. One of the things that I appreciate both as a board member and as a parent here, right, is you are 100% correct, right? We as a district take HIBs and bullying very seriously, and there are other districts across the state that are much more likely to not consider something a bullying event. Or there are some districts, I think, right, that are worried if they have numbers and what that means. And we take the opposite approach here, right? We rather it come to the board as a HIB, like you're saying, so that it can be reviewed both by the state and by the board to make sure that all of those children are being supported, right? Because that's something that we really, really value here, that any child that feels that they are being bullying is supported just across the district. And to balance that, right, we've done a lot of work as a board and a tremendous amount of work from the administrators and principals and teachers to also then not just say, okay, well, then here's a consequence and that's it, right? That this is really a learning opportunity. And so a lot of the work that's been done here in the discipline code to bring in restorative justice, to bring in opportunities for healing, to bring in education, right? And the balance between those so that people who are engaging in behaviors that are harming, right, are being re-educated, are being supported to learn and to behave different, while also ensuring those who are being bullied, right, are fully supported in the district. And so I just wanted to highlight, because I think our district does exceptionally well with that balance here, and wanted to really highlight that.
Thank you. I second that. Anything else? All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you
for your report. All right. We are going to move into a specific public comment section for on our anti-bullying report. So I'll remind the members of the public are invited to address the board on not on any matter, but the bullying report itself for a maximum of 3 minutes during this portion of the meeting. You're asked to state your name, address, and municipality. In response to your comments, the Board of Ed may respond or direct the superintendent to do so. The board may also opt to take the matter up at a future meeting so that the matter is researched by the district administration. With that, you know your time rules, and public comment is now open. Okay, seeing no comments, we will move on. Yes, we are doing the budget presentation for special ed.
Hey. Hi, everyone. Bob, I'm Paulette, Director of Pupil Services. Bob, you can move it to the next slide. Each year, when I present, I put these two IDEA, Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, along with our New Jersey Administrative Code 6A for special education. These guide our practices, our timelines, our procedures, our policies, and how we support and educate children with special needs. Next one. Under the umbrella of the pupil services, I could not do my job and provide the services that we do for our children without the support of our
Counseling supervisor that you just saw, Ms. Corinne Rutt, our supervisor of elementary special education, Dr. Beth Hoffman, and our secondary special education supervisor, Mr. George Needham. Together, we work to support all of our special education students, all of our students with 504 plans, all of our students who receive counseling services. We oversee nursing, the school physician, and any medical issues related. Our office supports families who have housing insecurities. We oversee the IDEA grant, which I will show you in a few minutes about where that funding goes. Mental health supports and contracts outside of our staffing to support our students. We oversee home instruction and the extended school year for our students with special education needs. So this is a breakdown of our students as of today who have 504 plans, which are legally binding documents that support students with disabilities. The difference between the 504 plan and the IEP, Individualized Education Plan, is the 504 plans provide accommodations, not modifications. So we're not altering the curriculum in any way. And you'll see we have 250 students as of today who have formal 504 plans. Our umbrella, every piece of our umbrella oversees and supports social emotional learning for our students. We have a board committee that meets monthly. We also have a district-wide committee where we average anywhere from 20 to 40 members across all 6 schools who help to create and plan social emotional learning days. We just had the Week of Respect, as Ms. Rutt just shared, in October. We have monthly themes that support our students and use common language so that we can practice these character traits through Character Strong, a curriculum that we implemented, I believe this is our 3rd year. So you'll see respect, responsibility, gratitude, empathy, perseverance, honesty, cooperation, courage, creativity, and kindness. Looking at our special education population, as of today, we have 784 students across our district who receive special education services. These are classifications that are needed to help us with accessing the funding and the educational supports needed to educate properly. I've highlighted a few because I want to point out for this year, we had a shift upward of students with more involved challenges, so mild to moderate intellectual challenges and autism. And you'll see the numbers, you think, well, that's just kind of, that's not a lot, but you'll see the code requires the classroom sizes to be a specific number. And if we go up by 1, we need to open up another classroom. And that actually happened with us this year. Those are last year's students. Yeah, classifications, yes. The ones in parentheses are last year's, and then these are this year's. I do also want to highlight, if you look at our specific learning disability number, it has come down. I do attribute that to the hard work that Dr. Politzis, our principals, and all that we're doing with regard to the science of reading and supporting reading and writing needs across the elementary grade levels. Our preschool, we have a very large preschool program across all 4 schools. We have half-day integrative programs for our 3-year-olds, afternoon programs for our 4-year-olds, and then we have our full-day program for our students who are identified as preschool disabled. We have special classes across all the schools. You'll see I've highlighted where these classes are. For example, Bear Tavern houses 5 of our preschool classrooms. Hopewell Elementary houses our language learning disabled classes, K through 5. Tollgate emotional regulation class. Stony Brook our multiply disabled classes. The middle school has, again, these 3. I don't need to name them all. Central High School also has the same multiply disabled learning language class and emotional regulation class. I can say also with confidence that none of our classes are what I would consider, the state would consider self-contained, and I'm very proud of that. They may receive their 4 core academic classes in one classroom or between 2 classrooms. but they all have homerooms. They all go to electives. They all receive inclusion, social studies, and science. And our special education teachers, K-5, often I receive questions about, well, how is my child in science and social studies receiving the literacy support that the trained special education teachers provide in our research and language arts classrooms? Well, all of our K-5 special education teachers in our middle school and many of our high school are trained in the same structured literacy program. So they're receiving that continuity of best practice for reading and writing across the core academics. We have collaborative classrooms all over our district where that involves 2 teachers, a general education teacher and a special education teacher, in all areas of core classroom and curriculum. We have research room classes, which are smaller size, and also language arts, math, science, and social studies. So this is the code, New Jersey Code of Special Education. This is important for you to see because I don't get to determine the number of children per class or how many paraprofessionals should be in those classes. This guides our practice, and I follow the rules, so we make sure that we stick to this number. But like I said, we had a couple students who moved in right before school who are in our special classes, and it tipped us into having to open up 2 additional multiply disabled classrooms to be able to meet their needs and meet the code requirements. Next one. We do have some students. We have 47 students who receive out-of-district placements for whatever reason. We are not able to meet their educational or social emotional needs. And so their least restrictive environment is an out-of-district placement, and these are the lists of schools that we contract with and support. Next one. The bulk of our IDA grant funding, which is around $892,000, goes towards our tuition costs for our out-of-district students. The out-of-district students' average tuition is anywhere from $57,000, that's low, to $300,000 a year, depending on the needs of students. These are some highlighted areas, and they are very expensive. I mean, you'll see we have a student who comes with a one-to-one nurse. We have several students, actually, 4. And they need to, for them to be able to come to school to access their learning and be able to be a part of our community. They need this nurse next to them. So we provide that and are mandated to provide that. Outside evaluations, if we need to send somebody for a psychiatric evaluation or a neuropsychological, because we need more information to be able to create a program that's appropriate for them, we will contract with outside professionals. We also support and oversee the sports physicals and the AEDs that are across the district. Under Pupil Services, we also support the mental health. Our Rutgers clinician is through my budget. Our sub-nurses are registered. Medical waste, the way it's removed from the district, we coordinate all of that, CPR training, and also drug testing. OT supplies, so occupational therapy, physical therapy supplies. Again, you know, I don't think you realize often that our students may need FM systems because they may have hearing challenges, and to be able to have them access curriculum and learning, we need to provide these services, these items. And so that's our line item for that. Learning Ally, reading supports, text to speech, speech to text, standers for students who are in wheelchairs who need to stand at certain points of the day. We have to be able to provide those as well. We also contract, if we need to, for outside physical therapy or occupational therapy, assistive technology, students who use augmentative communication devices. I may need to bring a specialist in to support their needs to be able to communicate, and that's what that item is about. Okay, Bob. Pupil Services also supports home instruction. What is home instruction? So if a student has a medical need that precludes them from being able to come into the school, we will receive a medical note from their treating physician. Our school doctor will review it and either approve it or deny it. And if approved, then we oversee and coordinate the home instruction while the child is recovering from whatever medical condition is going on. And I do want to highlight this because I do feel, you know, teachers need the tools to be able to provide quality instruction. And we do have to provide the training necessary for them to reach and teach our kids. So we have really committed to these evidence-based practices that support reading, writing, and math. I think there was a question about the math. Might have been you, Drew. I don't remember. Mark. So, because we do, in standardized testing, especially for our special education students, can be really hard. It's very hard for them. That's why they have extended time. And they shouldn't, in my opinion, they shouldn't be judged on that. But that's the state of our education at the moment. But the multisensory math is something that our staff has brought in, and our teachers are implementing now, and we're seeing a shift for the better. Okay. Inclusion at its best. This is just a list of, and we were just literally listing these, our kids with special education needs are in all of these plus some. And to be able to see the inclusion, and when we talk about inclusion, it's not just about sitting in that math class, right? It's about participating fully in the community. And actually, Ms. Corverline and Dr. McCarty tonight, I felt like mic drop. I mean, that is inclusion at its best. It's people who love and honor all of our children and include them and help them identify their strengths and help them face their challenges, just like we all have challenges, and reach their goals. And then I think the last are just some pictures of our beautiful children and teachers. And go ahead, next one. And the ultimate goal is helping them to access their greatness. Thanks. Any questions?
I'll just start. So, Bob, can you go back to the list of the schools that we place? And then the following, what's the next slide here? So, Paulette, just to make sure that I'm reading this right, these numbers represent the dollars that we spend. Can you just finish my statement here? Like, these dollars right here are the tuition that we spend to send kids out of district.
That is correct. And we also cover like the vocational education program. So for our general education students, that falls under my budget as well.
So I think just for the general public here, I don't think there's a single board member that doesn't think that Paulette doesn't run an excellent program at this district. And for me as the finance chair, when we have discussions with our community around where dollars and cents end up, this is a perfect example of a slide where on a $100 million budget, you can do the math of what percentage is going towards this tuition to place kids, right? And I bring this up not to do anything to the negative, because again, Paulette's program is second to none. And I think every board member can say that. But the very reality of what we face in New Jersey is this idea that even with a stellar program, we still have to do these placements. A, it's the right thing to do, right? But B, we're required to do it by law. The second thing I would say is, a lot of what Paulette has talked about tonight is required by law. So as we talk about our budgets and we think about the financial discussions that are happening in our community, we can't lose sight of the fact that not only is it the right thing to do to support the kids that need it most, but there is a requirement that Trenton puts on all of us to do that. So this is less of a question and more of a statement to back up Paulette and the great program that we have here. It's second to none, and I'll continue to say that. But also for the community to understand that there's a very real dollar and cent figure here that is required by law for us to be able to do, that plays into our discussions about budget. So thank you for running an awesome program.
Thanks, Mark.
Yep.
And I'll just add, I've taught in 2 other states, and they do not have the special education schools that New Jersey has. And I can say that the kids that I had the privilege of teaching in these 2 other states, I don't know that they received their least restrictive environment, and I don't know that they received what they needed, because there weren't schools like this and there weren't districts to be able to provide that kind of support that they need to access their their education.
If I can just piggyback on that. In addition to that, Paulette has really gone over and beyond to not just default to sending kids out of district. She has brought a lot of programs here in the district that have brought children back into Hopewell, and because this is for a lot of students truly their least restrictive environment. Some of the autism preschool programs, the emotional regulation programs that we have, were all Paulette, and that saves the district money. And oh, by the way, we do a better job academically than a lot of those other schools do. So she's doing the hard work to make sure that when those numbers go up there, you know that is the right placement that student, that child needs to be successful in school. And that's our obligation and our responsibility. This is not happening even in the state of New Jersey consistently in districts. And so that's what makes us such a premier district for people that want to have these services, because they know that we do a stellar job. So thank you. I thank you and your team for that.
Yeah. And one other layer to that's amazing and that's awesome. And also when we are able to keep our kids in district, it means we are spending less money, period, end of story. And it does require a different amount of space. So when we talk about having flexible spaces in our varying schools, some of the very difficult changes we've experienced from 10, 20 years ago when we didn't have this kind of programming to now is that we need more space to do this amazing work and at a less expensive price. So just want to highlight one of the kind of odd, or it seems disproportionate spend when you bring kids, keep them home, keep them in their home space whenever absolutely possible. We do spend less money as a district, and it requires us to use the space we have very differently. And so as we move forward in our planning, we are always keeping these flex spaces in our planning process. So just again, trying to educate the school district and our community on what that looks like as we move forward in building school spaces and adapting to a better way, in all of our opinions, a better way of serving our families and children. Okay. Thank you again, Paulette. We are going to roll straight into our general public comment. And if you guys haven't gotten tired of me reading it, I'll do it again as part of our public comment. But this one is for any topic. So the members of the public are invited to address the board on any matter for a maximum of 3 minutes during this portion of the meeting. You're asked to state your name, address, and municipality. And in response to your comments, the Board of Ed may respond or direct the superintendent to do so. The board may also opt to take the matter up at a future meeting so that the matter is researched by the district administration. I also want to remind you to sign in at the dais when you step up. Public comment is now open.
Hi, good evening. I'm Luis Martinez from Hopewell Township. Great meeting. I love seeing the reports, and they've been excellent. So commend everybody for all the hard work. I have 3 main questions, particularly on essentially just improving some of the educational programs we have. I'm curious, with the stronger AP results, are there any plans to add more AP classes and enrichment opportunities for students? I know we can't offer all the classes, but I'm just curious how the district decides on the AP classes that we offer, and why maybe some other classes like AP African American Studies may not be offered here. Also, what changes are being considered? I think some of the board members already said, for maybe to help more students exceed expectations in Algebra 1 and Geometry, where we saw maybe slightly lower performance than expected, and maybe offer more support. And lastly, what's being done to close the achievement gaps in some of the different student groups, such as, you mentioned, I think in the slides, it was clear, delineation race, and I'm just curious some of the other ways, whether it's special education or income, based on the NJSLI's test results. So, thank you.
My name is Peter Donato. I'm from Hopewell Township. Speaking on behalf of the FCA club at our school. So I'm a member of the Fellowship of Christian Athletes Club at the high school. Our club is a student-led club, and we've been very grateful for the ongoing encouragement and support from our volunteers, Carolyn and Ken, who have constantly been there for us over the years. They treat us with kindness, and they always give helpful insights and bring pizza and donuts to make our meetings extra special. We recently learned that there's a new policy preventing them from coming into the school, and we're hoping to better understand why. Could you please explain the reasoning behind the decision and what the policy specifically states? We've noticed that other nearby school districts allow FCA volunteers to participate, and we're wondering why Hopewell Valley's policy is different. Thank you for taking the time to consider my question and supporting student clubs like ours.
Hello, my name is Sylvia Costas, and I'm from Pennington. We had a lot of numbers tonight. Wow. Because numbers matter. And we've seen that tonight. The data and the information you provide helps you to make better decisions for the educational needs of our students. Last month, I asked the administration to provide the public with another set of numbers. The actual number of students who have enrolled in our schools from 3 residential developments that have pilot agreements. These numbers impact the fiscal needs of our schools. They are important for evaluation, accountability, and decision-making also. They help answer the question, do these tax abatement developments provide their equitable share of revenue for the ongoing educational costs for our regional school system? The township and the district provided this demographic study. Here's a copy of the chart. It's granular. It describes these neighborhoods by name, Hopewell Park, Woodmont, the collection. It predicts how many students will enroll in our schools from each development by the year 2035. Woodmont Forge on Federal City Road is projected to generate 76 students over the next 10 years. Without periodic updates on the numbers of students these developments actually generate, the public cannot make any evaluations or comparisons. You did that tonight. We cannot hold elected officials and demographers accountable for their statements and for the fiscal impact these pilots agreements have on the funding for the education and safety of our children. For example, the town crier from Q4 2024, Mayor Courtney Peters Manning states only about 250 students will be from the new neighborhoods associated with the township's affordable housing mandate. Only 250 over the next 10 years. Yet last month, Mr. Colavita stated that 278 new students have already enrolled from these 3 developments. 250 new students over 10 years, 278 already. We warmly welcome these students and their families into the neighborhood, but the township cannot claim that these projects will have no impact on our schools. They already have an impact. Numbers matter. Misinformation is misleading and confuses the community. You have the opportunity to provide the public with actual numbers of students enrolled each month in the agenda. Why are you afraid to publish these numbers? What reasons do you have for hiding them from the public? Thank you.
Good evening, Kate Ham, Hopewell Township. First, I'd like to make a remark of extreme praise, appreciation, and gratitude for Mrs. Corvaline and Dr. McCarty. I thank you and your students for stretching your thoughts and imaginations to use your efforts to positively impact the lives of others. The following comments and questions are attached to presentations that occurred. The first, regarding the presentation including AP offerings and scores. If my mathematics are correct, HVRSD offers more than 24 AP classes. Some of the numbers regarding the testing are single digits. My question is, what is the range of the number of students in AP classes? In other words, are we offering AP classes to a student population of single digits in a classroom? Or might the classes be on the smaller side, maybe 10 or 12, but only 3 to 6 are choosing to test? In regards to the ABR presentation, there were questions and discussions amongst the board about growth, information, and knowledge. For what it's worth, I'd like to share an experience known by many here in the Valley. While HIB investigations occur and may be unfounded, it is important to note that the final determination is being made by one designated individual per building. More often than not, there have been instances where ABS are unable to fully understand the perception of an incident. For example, a male Caucasian ABS will not fully understand the impact of a racially derogatory comment made towards a minority female student. Or a male or female ABS may not fully grasp the impact of comments or perceived ideologies made towards an LGBTQ plus individual. Allowing one individual who may not be well versed in the perceived harm towards our students involving race, ethnicity, sexuality, gender identification, etc., to make a subjective decision as the final determination can be harmful for our students and families. As a result, I would encourage this district's administration and the board to explore a change to include a small team, maybe 2 or 3 individuals, when determining a HIB investigation confirmed or declined. Having a few different perspectives instead of one sole individual allows interpretation and perception discussion to be had, creating safe environments for all.
Hi, I'm Jen DiDonato from Titusville. I understand that you have an upcoming meeting with the FCA Club, and I just want to thank you for that. I'm really excited that you've got that scheduled, so we're really looking forward to that, seeing some progress. So what I'd like to find out is where this complaint came from, or what happened with this. I just want to kind of better understand. Was it a complaint against the club? Was there a change or a new policy enacted? I'd just like to better understand why the FCA volunteers cannot come into the school. Can you explain this to our kids and to our audience tonight? Anything that you could offer to better help us understand would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Okay, it looks like we have all comments. Go down our list.
Absolutely. I'm going to defer the AP course questions and those items to Dr. Plitzis. You okay with that? Okay, so the question was do we plan to add additional AP courses, like, for example, African American AP, which we have, by the way. We just haven't had enough students register for us to run it. So that was the first question. And then the other one was some of the things that we've done to close the achievement gap.
So in terms of the AP offerings, obviously we would love to offer more, but a few things come into place. Like Dr. Treese mentioned, we have been trying to offer AP African American Studies every year. We haven't gotten enough enrollment, so we haven't run the course. Also, we have to send teachers out for training by College Board, and so some teacher, it's about teacher availability, and also in terms of if we scheduling too. So if we are looking at collapsing numbers or making our class sizes larger, like we won't be able to to give up staff, essentially. I mean, we would love to, if that's possible. I know that, Ms. Ham, you had a question about the AP numbers. And so just for reference, if there are AP classes that are smaller, like for example, AP Art Studio, there's only 3 students registered for it, but that is also with Studio Art 1. So they're run at the same period, so the teacher has to differentiate the instruction. So there are no single-digit courses that are run solo.
If there is a single, if something's standing alone, our range of number of students?
I mean, we don't have a hard and fast rule, I would say, in terms of we're cutting it off there. It's just also about availability of teaching staff, too.
It's the 3 factors you
Yeah.
mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
The other one was examples of what we've done to close the achievement gap for certain populations of students.
I feel like I mentioned this at the board, but we're looking at developing profiles of students to see, if they're enrolling later on in the district, like what are we going to do to support new students. We're also looking at screening our students better, just to see where the foundational gaps are. We're working with professional development training for the teachers.
And some other things we've done along the way is we've had enrichment programs in the summer for students that we've identified as having learning gaps. We've paired them with mentors. We have offered after-school tutoring. We've done a number of things, but part of it is identifying these students as they come in who have not been with us since kindergarten coming up. And the gaps that they have are not because that they have a learning disability or anything like that. It's because they just never have been exposed to the curriculum and catching them up. How do we catch them up when they have these gaps? So all of those things are things that we're looking at moving forward.
Yeah, and I think the fact that it's hard to, what I hear you saying is that it's looking at the information differently as opposed to putting in new programs, because the programs exist. The summer programming, the after school, the additional support will be there, but finding which students need what specific mix of those services is what is kind of a newer look, if you will. And it isn't as simple as saying, this demographic just automatically should move in, because each individual student needs assessment.
The other question was about our Christian athlete organization. This is not a change in policy of Hopewell. I received servants of a possible pending lawsuit from the Freedom from Religion Foundation. It is against the law for any school to have a club that is religious in base, that have people coming from the outside that mentor within the club. When I received this letter, I reached out to our board attorney, and he said, if this is happening, you have to cease and desist immediately. You cannot have someone coming outside. With the religious clubs, you're allowed to have them in school. They have to be student run. They have to have an advisor that is on our staff. That advisor cannot supervise or run the club. The students have to lead it. So if there are other people that are doing that in New Jersey, they're going to get one of these as well if they haven't already. So it's not a Hopewell policy. There's case law, and there's many court cases that have been brought, and this is the finding that we are not allowed to do it. So it's not something that Dr. Treese or this board has decided. It's been played out in the courts. So when I come talk to the club, I'll share the letter. I mean, it's public record. I have it right here in front of me. We were served this, and this is something we had to stop doing. Absolutely. I think I shared this with y'all in the green notes, but yes, but I'll make sure I share that with folks. Mm-hmm. And then Ms. Kosis's question was about the enrollment numbers. As promised, I told you all I would have that for you I think we'll have the demographers report at the end of the month. We'll share those numbers. This is what the demographers report predicted the first time. Oh, by the way, it never was zero impact. That was not what the demographer said initially. He's going to share, they're going to share, this is what we initially reported. This is what we're reporting now is a prediction, and it is a prediction. They don't know what grades students are going to be landing in and how that's going to play out. But their best guess, based on their conversations with the township and the 2 boroughs about what possible pilots could be coming in the future. So we will have that for you. We'll have those specific numbers, and we have been very transparent. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been able to share those right here. What I don't want to do is every month put up the enrollment numbers like these are outsiders and not part of our community. It doesn't matter to me that it's 300 or 400 students coming. They're all mine, and they're coming every day. So I don't want to say, oh, these are the folks like they're outside and they're not part of who we are. Right. And it's really not my battle to battle with the township or what the numbers are, or what they think the numbers may be. I can only tell you this is what it is. This is what we're experiencing. And this is how I have to address it in my budget. So the bigger question about whether pilots should exist the way they are, whether or not the folks that engage in those pilots owe the district something, is a legislative conversation that happens in Trenton. And it can't happen here in the board. But I promise you that you will get that full report with the numbers currently that are still shifting as of today. I went and tried to publish numbers and they had changed already. So I'm going to make sure that we have a full report for you, and also our prediction of what we need to do to address that in form of any redistricting that we may need to do.
Yeah.
Can you just say, when do we expect to have the report?
It's actually, I just asked. It's due any time, but we'll have to look at the report. November-ish.
It can't be finalized until October 15th. Numbers are counted and submitted by our data person. Once they have that, they can tie together the final report.
Yeah, and I think the important thing here as a board, as we give guidance to the administration, is that all of the boroughs and the township are all looking at building, growing, and our job is to reach out at some measure. We aren't sure exactly how frequently, but we're going to need to ongoingly do demographic studies to see what the numbers look like. And I think the other piece is that it doesn't necessarily, even if we tell you what community they're coming from, doesn't mean it tells you anything about what school they're going to. Because as we change and grow, redistricting can and most likely will happen. So it doesn't make sense to do something as frequently as a monthly update, because it's going to not only change, but where kids go to school can change within maybe a 6 month or a year. So I think that we wouldn't recommend the district spending that kind of time. What we want them to spend time doing is managing those incoming kids and making sure that we've got transportation and that we've got the teachers in the right place. So we're gonna all stay as tuned in as we possible and be completely as transparent along the way as possible, in a way that makes sense, that it actually is accurate, because a monthly number won't be helpful or accurate. So
and just a reminder that the enrollment report is shared every month, and that's public, and so that's a way where we look at all of our students and what schools they're currently in, and so that will remain available, which is how we currently do that.
Thank you for that.
So just a little bit of pushback, maybe a lot of pushback, not on the monthly comments, but on the impact of releasing numbers by communities. And I appreciate the fact that it has some tendency to isolate those communities. I don't know to what extent that's true, but I think if we were just looking to go back in history and say, hey, the demographers showed up or something, I'd put a little bit more weight on that. The issue we have going on is the number of future developments, upcoming developments that are being discussed across the 3 municipalities. And having attended some of those meetings, there are numbers for students that are being thrown out there that are just mind-bogglingly off. Right? I've heard half a student per unit. So I think it's important for us to release it. And again, that doesn't mean we need to do this on a month-by-month basis, but to actually release numbers that show, hey, you know, we've now built these developments, and we're not getting half a student per unit. We're getting, I would imagine, quite a bit more than that, so that as our municipalities are moving forward with new developments, they are accurately taking into account the impact on the district. And if the folks who are sitting up on the dais there in the borough and the township committees are not doing that, then the public has the numbers to push back at them and say, yes, the developer may be saying that that's their experience, but that's not the experience in Hopewell Valley. You know, that may be the experience when you build in a district that people don't want to move into, but when you build in a district that people with kids want to move to, the experience is going to be completely different. So I do want to make sure that we get those numbers out and we get a sense of actually what the number of kids per unit, right, or what those numbers are, so that people can see them and drive future decisions.
Totally agree, and I'm aligning with what you're saying. We haven't found how frequently yet, because things are so changing so rapidly. So work to do on our part in assessing that, but it wouldn't be appropriate or accurate to put something out on a monthly basis, and the frequency we should continue to seek what makes sense.
Right, it's precisely what we're asking for this report.
Okay.
Right, they're going to say, this is what you said last time, this is what we're actually seeing, right? And again, the demographer never said it was going to be zero. They didn't see any half of children, right?
Our demographer didn't.
No, okay, so absolutely, I agree. I mean, we're all in agreement.
Can I just add one more point? I think just for the public, just as a matter of principle, the finance committee has been no shrinking violet when it comes to pressing administration to be involved with the towns and talking to them early on in these processes when it comes to their pilot programs or whatever they're going to label them. I think that the public needs to continue to understand that it's in the best interest of the district for us to continue to be involved in those discussions, because that allows us to actually do long-term planning, which is something we want to do and we've talked about. And the more that we know on the front end about the impact of these potential developments, the more that we can prepare. And I think that the administration has done a good job. It's not been easy, but I do think that they've done a good job over the past year of heeding the advice from the finance committee and others to get involved and do it, even when it's been uncomfortable, right? And I just want to commend both Rosetta and Bob for that, because I think that, candidly speaking, they probably have disagreed when we've asked them to do things, and they've still done it because that's what a board does, and they've done it. And we've gotten outcomes that we've wanted and outcomes that we haven't wanted. But I think that we're in a better position today than we were a year ago. And I just want to give this a public commend to both of you for that. So thank you.
And the last question that I wanted to make sure we covered was the idea that we probably should have collaboration among the anti-bullying specialists. We generally do have collaboration, and know that Ms. Rutt oversees all of the final reports that come through before they are sent to me to be reviewed, and then I review them. I would argue that any of our counselors can identify whether they are of that ethnic group or not, and they're well trained in being culturally responsive and in how to identify what is a HIB and what isn't, and what is biased and isn't. Comments. I can often say that they do a very. I can surely say and assure you that they know what they're doing. But I have the final say, and I look at it, and so does Ms. Rutt. So I feel like we're in a good place with that. And they often do collaborate, because especially in the middle school where we have most of our HIBs, they collaborate and they work across the lines. And we have more than one ABS in that building. In the elementary level, Ms. Rutt oversees those as well and makes sure she checks those and makes sure as she looks at the evidence that what they selected was indeed what it should have been. And I've been very good. I've been very lucky to not have to turn any back. There's been a couple I've had to say, I need you to look at this again, but it's rare. It's rare that I have to do that. So thank you for that.
Okay, with that, we'll close public comment and move on with the agenda. Excuse me. Do we have any old business items? Okay. Seeing none, would like to get a first and second to pass the consent agenda items in the
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? Seeing none, consent agenda items are passed. Moving on to committee updates, starting with finance and facilities. Mr. Peters?
I'm actually going to let my esteemed colleague, Dr. Resnick, present this because I was out sick. So please fire away.
I'm going to very esteemedly present. So we had the majority of our finance and facilities committee meeting focused on the presentation from our advisors that help us with our health plan. Just for the folks who are here and or are listening online, two important facts to know. One is at some point, I don't know when, but at some point the state passed a mandate which defined very precisely the health benefits that districts have to offer to their staff. So none of the details of the benefits can be negotiated, not what's included, excluded, premiums, co-pays, none of that can be negotiated. In 2020 they did. So the only options that the district has is whether they offer it through whatever the state plan is, or offer the same exact benefit by some other means. We are self-insured to a significant extent. We carry insurance to protect us against what would be sort of runaway costs, but we're essentially self-insured, which means we hire an administrator to administer that plan, but then we actually pay it out of our budget. We have historically done way better than if we were paying premiums into the state plan. Why is all of that relevant? In trying to figure out what we need to budget for this for the next budget cycle for health insurance for our employees. And for those of you who are not in finance and facilities committee, you may want to hold on. The first data point is a report by Aon, who are, I guess, the underwriters for the state plan, for what they anticipate the premium increases to be in the state plan, and those that they anticipate to be 25 to 33% for the medical part of it, and 58% for the prescription premiums, for an aggregate increase somewhere in the mid 30%. So we are hopeful that when our consultants finish their financial analysis, our increases will not be in the 30, right? Our budget for the healthcare will not increase at a 35% rate, but my personal opinion, having listened to it, we need to anticipate significant increases to our health. I would guess probably somewhere in the 20s, right? And of course, with a 2% budget cap, that's going to create problems. So I'm just going to let that sink in. And when I say the rest of the meeting, we had a discussion with Tom Quinn about ongoing projects, and we have ongoing projects that are going well. They're costing us money. Money's coming out of the budget, but the projects are going well, and they were budgeted for. There is some other minor stuff that came up, but again, we're able to cover that out. And I think that's it. Did I miss anything, Bob? Any questions on that one? Please direct your questions to Bob about the healthcare. Don't shoot the messenger. Oh, I forgot. We had discussed having our health insurance advisory team do a presentation for the community at large as to what's going on, because this is going to be a significant impact on our budget for next year.
We can be thankful that we're beating the.
I will not be
state
doing
cap.
that presentation.
Okay. Seeing no other questions, we'll move on to. We'll stay with Dr. Resnick.
All right. In
on
a spirit of
education.
musical chairs, I was not able to make the outcome meeting, so I'm gonna, I guess, pass this to Dr. Belitsis and.
Okay, so we met on October 7th, and Miss Rutt was present there, and she reviewed the graduation report with the committee that was on last month's board agenda. So we as a committee had some conversations about what the high school is doing to help support students from their transition from high school to college in terms of career options. And so she talked about the career lunch and learns that are offered. She talked about representation from the military that comes regularly to the high school. And she also discussed that counselors begin to push into different periods during 10th grade to the students to help them begin to discover what their career explorations might be. We then had a professor from Rowan present on a possible research that she's proposing to conduct within the district. And that led to a conversation on a statement of assurances that is in a work in progress about when we collaborate with outside researchers, what kind of assurances can we put in place for the district to almost get something for lack of a better term, to collaborate with them. And then finally, we talked about, we were selected as one of 40 school districts in the country to participate in a study or survey for our high school students. It was based on health, and it was by the CDC protocols. And 4 to 5 classrooms will be sampled, so roughly 100 to 150 students in the high school will be surveyed.
Any questions? Okay. Seeing none, we will move on. Oh. Okay. We'll go ahead and move on to personnel.
Okay, so we met before the meeting as a personnel committee like we typically do every month. A couple items we talked about today. Again, it's always bittersweet to make these announcements. We do have 3 retirements that we wanted to talk about. First was Joyce Nagel, who was English and secondary language at the high school. She was with the district since 2007. Really, really appreciate her time here and wish her the best. Our second retirement was Heidi Mutner, who was here since 2015 and is going to be retiring at the end of the year. And then our third is Timothy Wolverton from our maintenance department, who has been here since 2021. So again, we want to thank them for all of their hard work and service, and we wish them the best in their retirement. Also, 2 really good news stories for tonight that we're going to be talking about with a roll call. First and foremost, after a really long effort to get this position filled, we were able to fill our K-12 wellness and supervisor of 6 to 12 humanities with Mary Pancoast, who I believe is here. Hi, hello, thank you for being here. And we also were able to, I think, quite literally today, get the appointment of our new director of facilities, William Van Sickle, who's also going to be on the roll call tonight for that appointment. So very, very excited about both of those, and looking forward to getting through that. We spent a little bit of time on our extracurricular appointments, which is standard for this time of year. All that's available for public content on the agenda. We spent a little bit of time talking about those appointments. Other than that, I don't think I missed anything. And I think we need to go to a roll call. And a first and second before we do that. Thank you, Madam President. Can I have a first and a second to go?
Second.
Dr. Littleton,
Yes.
Mr. Peters,
Yes.
Dr. Resnick,
Yep.
Mr. Slotman,
Yes.
Dr. Stiliano,
Yes.
Dr. Wilson,
Yes.
Dr. Genovese, Mr. Capadia,
Yes.
Ms. Williams Galliano.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Wonderful.
Welcome aboard.
Welcome.
Yes, congratulations.
This is when we ask you to stand up and give your first speech.
You don't have to.
Just joking.
But if you'd like to, you want to invite her to say anything? She's a language arts person, of course.
Hi, I'm Mary Pancoast. Thank you so much for approving me this evening. I really can't wait to start and being here tonight. And I think it was a perfect night. I got to learn a lot about the district, and I'm just taking it all in. And I look forward to working closely with each and every one of you in the months and years to come. So thank you again.
Welcome. Awesome. Okay, moving on to community relations, Mr. Slotman.
Hello. We met on just this past Friday, actually, Friday morning, the 10th. So it was just 3 days ago, and had a terrific discussion. Obviously, a lot of what we focused on is the various outreach efforts related to education surrounding the upcoming referendum. We, had a whole bunch of different discussions on that issue, but from a community relations perspective, you've seen us, if you've been out and about recently, you've seen us everywhere. You've seen various board members, members of administration at the Hopewell Harvest Fair. We were at every single back to school night. We've been at almost every Friday night high school football game. We'll continue to be there, obviously, with that. And so point being, if you're out and about, please, don't hesitate to come up and introduce yourselves. And, if you have any questions, that's what we're there for, and we're happy to answer any of them that you might have. So the other bit of information I'd mention is that we do have another edition of our communications committee. Dr. Treese has a committee that she's put together related to referendum communications that will be meeting next. I think it's the 23rd is what I have in my notes. That's next week. And I think there's some people in the room that are probably participating in that committee, but if you're interested and you haven't already lent your name to that, the more the merrier. We take all comers, so we'd love to have you around the table as part of that discussion. So I would defer to I know Mr. Capadia, I know Dr. Genovese, who's on the phone. We're both there as well. Anything else that I've missed or that you'd like to add? No, it was a perfect recap of the meeting. So with that, I'd yield back my time. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Any comments, Dr. Genovese? Thank you. Okay, moving on to SEL.
Sorry about that. We met and discussed the possibility of providing a parent screening in February for screenagers for our elementary families in the community, and having either a panel discussion or involving our kids in some way. I met with Heidi Kayami, our head of the Municipal Alliance, and Dr. Sue Polinsky, who's here, but I think she left, who's part of our digital wellness, and we are working to do that. Many thanks to our parents who brought this to our attention and asked for that, so we'll be working on that. I highlighted all 6 schools basically provided a week of respect activities, and it was 2 weeks ago, and just kind of highlighted some of the things that were going on at the high school and at Hopewell Elementary School in celebrating this week of respect. And this also tied into all 4 elementary schools, in that respect was the character strong trait that's been discussed in their classrooms daily. We also talked about professional development, which happened today, because to be able to promote social emotional learning for our children, we need to provide it for our staff. Today was really successful. We had George Scott join, our wellness teachers, our nurses, our counselors, and our child study team members. He gave an amazing presentation on resilience within ourselves and for our children. And then in the afternoon, Corey actually provided for our counselors solution-focused counseling within the school, and staff is very pleased with that. And I believe that's it. Did I miss anything? That was it. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Any questions? All right. Thank you again, Paulette. Moving on to government relations.
So the Government Relations Committee met on, that was October 1st, I believe. In terms of our county level engagement, we continued having discussions about potential desegregation initiatives with other districts here in Mercer County. We often talk about how Mercer County remains one of the most segregated public school systems in the entire state. And so we have been trying to do some more initiatives with branching out and doing more cross-district collaboration. In the last 2 months, we've actually identified a Mercer County-based nonprofit called Young Audiences. For those who are familiar, we've been having Young Audiences come and perform in HVRSD schools now for a few years. They do cultural music performance for K-5 students, and they also do those same performances with most, if not all, Mercer County school districts. So there's already some connective tissue built in there. We had a meeting with County Executive Benson to discuss the idea. Their office was interested. So moving forward, we're hoping to engage with some of our other Mercer County neighboring school districts to see if there would be interest to potentially having a joint Young Audiences performance.
Ewing's on board.
Oh.
Ewing's ready to partner with us. So
That's great. And yeah, just to be clear, this is something that has been happening in our district now for years. It happens in our neighboring districts for years. And the goal would be to have, our K-5 students be able to interact with students that come from different backgrounds and identities who they normally wouldn't be able to have the opportunity to interact with. And it's in, the setting of not only a Mercer County location, but also a performance that's educational and engaging. Moving to state level advocacy, after our successful effort to secure $125,000 last year through the New Jersey state budget for the first time in district history for an ADA accessible playground at Bear Tavern, we're gearing up for our FY27 state budget ask. Similar to last year's ask, we want to ensure that we're delivering a high impact project for our students. And a few months ago, actually, if we remember back in June, we had a group of high schoolers who came to the board and talked about collecting internal data through surveys and showing us the analysis about how our high school students really face some pressing needs relating to mental health. And so our goal moving forward into next year's budget ask is to secure some additional state dollars for our mental health programs that we have here in Hopewell that are tried and true. Dr. Treese can talk more about some of the specific programs that we would want to secure those dollars for. But I do just want to reiterate that we as a board have prioritized mental health for years. And this is, there's always more to do. And this would be a great opportunity for us to secure some additional dollars for programs that sometimes, are put under stress when we have these tight fiscal years that we often talk about.
one of the things we talked about specifically was continue to supporting our Hope Club, our Hope Squad, and our Air Dog program. We just attended here last week a fundraiser for Attitudes in Reverse, where they raise money every year because they receive no state funding. Everything that they do comes from districts or it comes from donations. With schools losing funding around the titles, Title II and Title IV is where a lot of us have been supporting some of these things. They are canceling Air Dogs, and Air Dogs is really struggling to stay afloat. I was really proud of, there was a big gala. We went, two of our teachers came and brought their dogs with them to the gala, and they had a silent auction, and 4 people donated $3,000, won $5,000 by themselves to support a dog. It costs about $3,000 to train a dog. I was just so proud of that, but how do we keep doing this year after year and keep these cohorts going? is very difficult. We had 2 students come and speak. I was very proud of them. But that's specifically one of the programs that we're looking to write this grant for. And I know that we have to sit down and get some numbers in there.
I look forward to getting to work on that. But good part is we're on the same timeline as we were last year. We're a little bit ahead of schedule, which is great. But you know what, it worked for us last year. And again, like we talked about, the worst answer we can get is no. Moving on to municipal advocacy, we spoke briefly about some next steps, about an initiative that I talked about a few months ago, which would be advocating to municipalities to allow 16 or 17-year-olds the right to vote in school board elections. This is something that obviously we as a board would have to talk more about, but as just kind of an initial check-in, we wanted to have Dr. Therese and Board President Williams-Galliano just check in with the mayors to see if this is something that they would be interested in exploring, because we don't want to collect data from our students, you know, and kind of almost offer this as an initiative that we're going to move behind if there isn't really any political will from the folks who are making the decisions. If there is some interest in exploring it, then we can have more conversations as a board and then see, you know, how we can go about collecting data from our students if this was something that they would actually want. Because I think at the end of the day, it would be something that's student-centered and student-driven, and we want to make sure that our students themselves have that passion to engage in it. And lastly, just as a heads up, I know I've spoken with Dr. Lilliston and Dr. Stiliano about this, but next month I will be introducing some formal language through the policy committee to amend policy 0155 to establish the Government Relations Committee as a standing committee. The timeline would be we would go into first reading in November, second reading in December, and then the committee would be fully launched and standardized moving into 2026. And so I know we've had some conversations about the logistics and whether it could fall under a pre-existing committee or having it be its own, or potentially, you know, dissolving some other committees and absorbing them into others. We'll have some more finite language next month, but just wanted to put it on the agenda for everyone. Those are my updates. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah. So question on the county-wide program that you talked about. So I'm really happy to hear about the K-5 program. Is the committee also looking into trying to do something for the middle school and high school level?
Yeah, so for the high school level specifically, we have, you know, an aspirational goal that we want to build towards. So we're starting with K through 5. I think all high schools in Mercer County have some iteration of a peer leaders program. We have a very great program here in Hopewell. I was part of it. And every year, peer leaders go through training. And so the goal would be to do some type of standardized training. Speaking of cost, it would probably be virtual to get all of the high schools on the same kind of, you know, standardized peer leader training, and then to have those peer leaders come and staff and chaperone these K through 5 events. So not only would we have high school students interacting with one another from across districts, but they'd also be able to interact with other elementary school students. That's the long-term aspiration. In the short term, if we can move on the, you know, on the standardization of a virtual training, that would be great as well. But that's kind of where we're looking at it from K through 5 and then 9 through 12.
So on that one, what about asking if the county can help facilitate a county-wide training for peer leaders that will be in person, right? Have a county facility where they can come together from the whole county.
I mean, the county executive's office is very interested in this type of programming. I think it just started to become a question about logistics, because even if we did this K through 5 initiative, ideally you want every elementary school to participate, but logistically it's not going to pan out that way, and it probably will be certain grade levels in specific elementary schools that are able to send students to a joint location. I just, you know, I don't know what the numbers would be to get every single high school in the county in one space to do an in-person training.
There is less high school or elementary school.
Yes, but well, they're massive, right? If you talk about Hamilton, there's 2 huge high schools. If you're talking about Princeton, there's 3 actually. Yes, there's 3. I mean, West Windsor Plainsboro is huge. I mean, it's just massive. You're talking about the numbers. Just that's why I picked Ewing, because they're kind of our size. We couldn't do Trenton. Trenton has I don't know how many elementary schools, right? so that's part of the problem with that.
And I think the other thing is that we talked when we did meet with Mr. Benton. It was really about making sure that it was inclusive. So in order for it to be inclusive, you have to have a low threshold of entry. And, to the degree you get some momentum going, then you could kind of rally around something more in person. But not every school is going to be willing to or able to participate if the first one is really literally an investment of being in person. We'll go for success and then grow. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, seeing none. There were no climate action updates from Jackie, so we're going to move on to policy. Dr. Wilson.
Okay, thank you. So the policy committee met on September 26th, and we were joined by Ms. Riley, who's our high school principal, as you all know. We discussed 3 policies and 2 regulations, which are up for first reading tonight. So can I have a motion and a second to bring policy 5530 and regulation 5530 substance abuse, regulation 5600 student discipline code of conduct, policy 3245 research projects by staff members, and policy 9550 educational research projects for first read.
Motion.
Okay. So first up, we'll discuss policy and regulation 5530 substance use, as well as the student discipline code of conduct. So the revisions to all 3 of these documents primarily address look-alike substances, which was an issue that we brought up during the last board meeting as well. So our policies and regulations, as a reminder, are currently silent on look-alike substances. So these are things like non-alcoholic beer or vapes that have no nicotine in them. So to decide if and how we wanted to integrate these look-alike substances into our policies and regulations, the committee gathered information from local superintendents to understand how they're currently treating these at the NJSBA, as well as a few sample policies from other school districts. So using this information, we revised our own policies and regulations in this space to address this particular issue. So for policy and regulation 5530 substance use, the main revision that we're looking at is that we're recommending adding look-alike substances to the definition of substances. So the language currently reads, including look-alike drugs, non-alcoholic beer and beverages, or any substance misrepresented as alcohol or a mood-altering drug. So we've made this change to both the policy and the regulation. We've also made a minor change to change drug abuse to substance use throughout, just to be in alignment with the current language that's used in the field. Similarly, with the student discipline code of conduct, we also are recommending a revision where we're adding look-alike substances to our definition of a drug or alcohol policy violation. So you'll see that language in there. So I'll stop right there and just say, does anyone have any questions or concerns about these particular revisions, or policy committee colleagues, anything to add to that? Okay. So the next set of policies is related to research that's conducted by external researchers and staff members with student, staff, and school stakeholders. So Dr. Plitzis mentioned this briefly during the Ed Program Committee updates. So as many of you guys know, we receive a large number of requests for research projects involving our students and staff, as well as members of our school community. So the committee really identified a need to revise the district's research policies to ensure that uniform materials are submitted to the district for proposed research studies for approval, and also that we really have clear feedback loops such that the district both receives and can benefit from the findings from the research that's conducted at our school. So in addition to the proposed revised policies here, we're hoping to implement a statement of assurances as well that would move through the Ed Program Committee that researchers would need to sign that aligns with the requirements in this policy. So we have 2. I think our attorney recommended that we keep them as 2 separate policies, although we did speak about potentially combining them at one point. So they are separate policies, but what you'll see is that most of the language in there is virtually identical. and it just talks about essentially what the approval process looks like, protection of students' rights and confidentiality, and the dissemination back to our school district and to the stakeholders who participate in the research. Does anybody have any questions or comments about these? Anything to add? Okay. So all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? Okay. So now moving on to second reading, can I have a motion and a second to bring bylaw 0177, professional services, for second reading, as well as policy 1648.11, the road forward, COVID-19 health and safety, policy 1648.13, school employee vaccination requirements, and policy 1648.15, record keeping for healthcare settings in school buildings, COVID-19, for second reading abolishment.
Motion.
Okay, so the committee received no feedback on bylaw 0177 after reviewing it during first reading, nor did we receive any specific feedback on the COVID area policies that we're recommending abolishing. And just so folks, as a reminder to folks, we still follow our local and state health department guidelines as it relates to COVID-19. It's just that these particular policies are no longer relevant as our guidelines have been revised. Anybody have any questions or comments related to these? Okay, so Bob, I think we can move towards a roll call.
Mr. Peters.
Yes.
Dr. Resnick.
Yes.
Mr. Slotman.
Aye.
Dr. Stiliano.
Yes.
Dr. Wilson.
Yes.
Dr. Genovese.
Yes.
Mr. Capadia.
Yes.
Dr. Littleton.
Yes.
Ms. Williams-Galliano.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Marvelous. Okay, moving on then, we will roll into public. I need a first and a second to approve the October-November calendars.
So moved.
Second.
You're on, sir.
We already have ed program set for 11:10. Stole our time. 8 a.m. I blame Pam for this.
It's not Pam's fault. It is not.
And personnel set for 11:17 at 6 p.m.
Can finance meet at 9 o'clock?
No, probably not. They got to go to work.
Oh.
You want to go we can go the 11th at 8 if you want.
So I am on the West Coast that whole week.
So you're good. You're free.
8 a.m.
We could.
Want to do that Monday? Yeah. May the 3rd?
Monday the 3rd, 8 a.m. will work for me.
Good. All right. Drew, since you're out of town, give you scheduling preference. '27th to the 29th of October. (10:27) at 9 a.m. Next week's gonna be tough for you. Policy, 8 a.m. on the 24th. So policy 1023 at 8. John?
Hello, it's community relations time. I like the 8 a.m. slot, Dr. Treese, at the week of the 10th. Maybe Wednesday the 12th? I don't know. Or the 11th. Oh, yeah. Yeah. The 12th is good. I could be flexible if you guys want to do something a different time. Are we allowed? Well, I mean, whatever time works. 9, 8. We're talking about the 12th, Wednesday, November 12th, right? That's what we said? Yeah, that's fine. Whatever time. My schedule is currently open. If that's okay with. We're looking at the 12th of November. Perfect.
SEL. $11.14.
Yes.
Jackie?
Amanda? Yeah, I could do either. I have more flexibility on the 14th. Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? All right, calendars are passed. Anyone else? Okay, members of the public are invited to address the board on any matter for a maximum of 3 minutes during this portion of the meeting. You are asked to state your name, address, and municipality. In response to your comments, the Board of Ed may respond or direct the superintendent to do so. The board may also opt to take the matter up at a future meeting so that the matter is researched by the district administration. Public comment is now open.
Hi, Sylvia Kosas, Pennington Borough again. You have the privilege of having more than 3 minutes to speak, but I'll try to respond to your comments and present my public comment also. I think it's unfair and unkind to intimate that if a member of the public asks for data about residential developments that are subject to pilots, that person is prejudiced and against the students that are coming from those developments. I'm concerned about pilots and fair taxes. The students and the people who live there are my neighbors just as much as they're yours. Here are some more numbers that matter. According to the 2023 census report, Hopewell Township had 6,504 housing units. The 3 pilot developments listed in this report that I just showed you that you did will add 1,756 new housing units. As mentioned earlier, many students are enrolling in our schools from these 3 developments. The developers' pilot payments for these homes will solely benefit Hopewell Township municipal government. No money goes to the schools. I want the money to come to this school or the fire district, and the county will get a mere 5%. If these 1,756 housing units paid property taxes conventionally, 57% would come to you for yearly costs and long-range costs. Instead, class sizes are increasing, parents are paying for busing, extracurricular activities are cut, or busing for them or paying for them, programs can be cut, maintenance projects are delayed, and classroom space is needed. There was a controller's report in 2007. If you haven't read it, I hope you do. Matthew A. Boxer said, the current abatement structure allows municipalities like Hopewell Township to keep almost the entire payment in lieu of taxes amount. This creates a perverse incentive whereby the municipality may gain revenue through granting an abatement while other government entities, in this case our school district, loses out. And I'm going to have no time to finish my comments because you have privilege. Thank you.
So my name is Viviana de Leon Gonzalez. I am from Pennington, and I just have a question. What's a pilots program?
So, Ms. Kosis, before you leave, I want Mr. Calavita to, and one, I never accused you of being prejudiced. That's not what I said at all. I said I don't want, I did not say that. I said I don't want folks to single out the new folks that are moving into the community, because as a school district, we've had this before. When Brandon Farms came here, it was a them and us and all of that, and it has nothing to do with ethnicity or any of that. It's just that throwing numbers up and saying those are the folks coming, which we have no problem saying what the enrollment is I don't want that feeling to happen with that community like happened with Brandon Farms years ago, and folks who live there know what I'm talking about. Beyond that, a pilot program I'm going to have Bob explain to you, and yes, this is a conversation y'all should definitely be having downtown because I don't have any control of it, but Bob will talk to you about how it really doesn't, the money is not geared to it doesn't come to the school district in that way. It just redivides the lines of the contribution that comes out of each municipality. But could you talk about that a little bit, Bob?
Yeah, I think you hit it there. When a pilot is
I'm still here.
Okay.
I'm listening.
So a pilot program is essentially, it stands for payment in lieu of taxes. So what happens is a builder comes in, the township has a significant issue with affordable housing. So to bring in affordable housing, to make the houses sellable by the person building them, because they have to sell them, it costs them more money to make than they can get to sell them. So to do that, they strike an agreement with the township that they pay less on the land. And the people who buy those houses don't pay property taxes as everybody else does. They pay a pilot payment that goes directly to the municipality. The house itself is not on the books. It's not on the tax rolls. Okay? So what happens is when we charge school tax, those homes aren't charged. Okay? In a school district where it's not regional, we're regional, Pennington Borough, Hopewell Township, Hopewell Borough, the taxes are divided among those 3 municipalities. By having a pilot, Hopewell Township is skewed. Okay, their properties are undervalued according to the ratio that's used to divide it. So what they're doing is they're pushing burden to the boroughs and to the other people in Hopewell Township who are on the tax rolls. So we wouldn't get, if the pilot didn't exist, we wouldn't get a single dollar more. If we need $1 million, we get $1 million. It's just who's paying the million. How much is Hopewell Township paying? Hopewell Borough, Pennington Borough. Just because there's a pilot doesn't mean we get more money. We only get what we budget for and how much taxes we establish. Now, other municipalities have agreements for pilots. Woodbridge is one I know of. They have the same agreement in place that we are hoping to get. They are paying the debt service on a building that they needed to build. But they had to build several buildings and do several adjustments because their pilots were enormous. So that's where we stand right now. Hopefully people understand who are watching. But the district wouldn't get a single dollar more than we're authorized to give in our budget process.
And those are decisions that are made by township, not by school board. So a lot of just wanted to separate that out as well.
Yeah. And one other thing to clarify is the existing pilot right now is the Hopewell Township one, and the boroughs are also considering their own. So in any case, the other 2/3 takes the same burden anytime there's a pilot.
And the final thing is, there was this kind of conflating our annual operating budget with the referendum and our ask about those items and what the pilot is bringing in, which we need to expand our space, right? But the reason why we are now charging activity fees and we've adjusted courtesy busing and we're looking at hard cuts has nothing to do with that. It has to do with the 2% cap that's on the district, and we can't generate the funds to manage a budget that keeps ballooning because of inflation, and the state says we can only ask this much of the taxpayer. So that's a different question, a different conversation that really the pilot doesn't have part in. So that's school finance is very complicated. We'll keep explaining and having conversations about it. But as we get into budget talks, which Miss Paulette Donardo presenting tonight, Vicki presented last board meeting, we're showing you where our spending is. And if we're capped at 2% and you see our spending, that's why we're struggling and that's why we have to make these tough cuts.
Yeah. And I do, even though the question by Ms. Kosis, I know she left, but for anybody watching, I do want to finish that point that Dr. Therese was making, and that is the statement that was made was by putting numbers out prematurely or on some frequency that added error to the numbers, it might bias people's view on any district, any group of homes being built. And it was not a pointed remark at Ms. Kosis. It was in general, here's part of the reasons why we are not considering putting numbers out on a monthly basis and a frequency that it doesn't match the accuracy that is needed in this case. It won't convey what the truth of the matter in the moment. And Dr. Therese is referring to previous builds in the community, probably been 25 years now, but where there was an equal discomfort and adjustment to this large community of homes coming on board into the school district, and it required a whole new school to be built. So having learned those lessons, we understand we're not going to repeat that same error in terms of communicating numbers prematurely and discomforting community on a monthly basis. So just wanted to, for anyone watching, clarify that point. Anything else? Any comments from the board? Okay, seeing none, we will close public comment and we will sprint to the end of the meeting by checking in on new business. Seeing none, I need a first and a second to move into executive
First.
session
Second.
where HIB matters will be discussed. No action will be taken. And did we had a first and second? Okay, all in favor? Any opposed or abstaining? Okay, thank you. Thank you for your staying with us. You are now free to go. We'll move into executive session.